Chapter 12:23. Master Zhang San's blood turned into a red bead the size of a fist and spun around in the air. Ya opened her mouth and the blood bead was sucked into her mouth. Master Zhang San turned into a dried corpse and fell to the ground. Then, Ya looked at the people from the Misty School. How dare you? Zhang Xiaohua was shocked and did not dare to delay any longer. He reached out his hand and the lotus throne appeared in the air. He pointed his finger and the lotus throne emitted a rainbow light that covered Zhang Xiaohu, Peacock, and Chen Chen. Ha ha, Ya covered her mouth and laughed. Little husband, don't be afraid. Zhang Xiaohu is your second brother. Why would I hurt him? Besides, their cultivation is far from enough. Their blood can only be used to refine the demon flag. There are many people like that in the martial arts world. I have no reason to make you unhappy. Then, she waved her sleeve and 2 rays of red light shot out towards Nun Jingyi and Nun Shuqing. Stop it! Zhang Xiaohua was furious. The dream-chasing sword flew out again and turned into 64 rays of light that shot towards Ya. Io, little husband, you are so cruel. How dare you attack me? You wronged me for loving you so much. Ya smiled and did not retract the red light. It was as if the rays of light could not hurt her at all. Sure enough, when the 64 rays of light hit Ya's body, the demon flag's clothes shook slightly and countless black gas blocked the rays of light. Little husband, do you know why I have been talking to you so patiently? Why I have been answering your questions? Ya smiled brightly. Rushi, you attacked me as soon as you arrived. I'm tired of dealing with you. Well, it's not just you. Look, I've been attacking the monks of the Dalan Temple since the beginning. Why didn't I attack the people of the Cult of Fragrance? That's because the monks of the Dalan Temple are pigs. No matter how high their cultivation is, they are no match for me. As for Yu Mingxin's disciple, I still have to think about it. I can only wait until the first layer of the demonic flag is successfully refined before I can make a move. Then, a bitter expression appeared on her face. This devilish flag is far too difficult to refine. There was so much blood at the foot of Yao Mountain, as well as the quintessence blood of so many experts from the Tao of Immortals, but I've only just reached the first level. Only after reaching the first level can I dare to stand tall and face you directly. Do you know how nervous I was in front of you just now? You! Zhang Xiaohua finally understood. She gritted her teeth. But don't be afraid, my husband. I'm sincere to you and your family. In the future, this world will belong to the two of us. Let's build your Beidou school into a first-class school. We'll let the Tenryu sect, the Incense sect, and the Misty school become our Beidou schools, puppets. What do you think? While Ye was talking to Zhang Xiaohua, the other 2 red lights had already killed the heavily injured Nun Shuqing and Nun Jingyi. Their quintessence blood had also been sucked out by Ye. Zhang Xiaohua looked on, not knowing what to do. At this moment, Ye's expression suddenly changed. She frowned and closed her eyes. Her body fell from the sky. When she regained her balance, she opened her eyes. Her eyes were clear and filled with pain. She looked at Zhang Xiaohua and said, Xiaohua, I'm Meng. Meng. Zhang Xiaohua hesitated. She looked at the familiar eyes. Yes, I have to go. Xiaohua, Ye's consciousness is getting stronger. I'm destined to be devoured by her. And the more I'm devoured by Ye, the more I know more. Meng cried. I really love you. Zhang Xiaohua was surprised. I know you love me. Xiaohua, you don't understand. Meng panicked. Meng said anxiously, Xiaohua, I don't have much time. You have to hear that what you said just now was true. But what she said to you were all lies. She didn't kill you because she wanted to keep you captive. When your cultivation is high, she will absorb your quintessence blood. Also, she needs to refine this demonic flag 9 times. Not only does she want to raise her cultivation, but she also wants to use it to break open space and return to the ruins. Refining 1 level of the demonic flag used so many people's blood and lives. Every time the demonic flag is refined, the amount of quintessence blood used is 9 times that of the previous level. Xiaohua, you have to calculate how many people's blood is needed to refine this demonic flag successfully. Even if you kill the entire pugilistic world and the entire human world, it won't be enough. Zhang Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. If that was the case, the entire human world would become hell. Quick, Xiaohua, before you is stopped by me, you kill me, Meng said and wanted to take down the demonic flag. But, no matter how hard she tried, the demonic flag didn't move. Meng was about to cry. She shouted, Xiaohua, use the flying sword. Use chasing dream. Let chasing dream become killing dream. Zhang Xiaohua was in tears as well. Chasing dream could not get close no matter how many times he tried. Meng, how can I bear to let you go? How can I kill you with my own hands? Is there no other way? Zhang Xiaohua's voice was hoarse. Meng smiled bitterly when she saw that chasing dream didn't move forward. She shook her head and said, Xiaohua, you are wrong. You don't love me at all. Zhang Xiaohua also shook her head. Meng, what nonsense are you saying? How can I not love you? It's true. It's not your heart that loves me, and it's not my heart that loves you. It's the heart-binding curse that you used. That's causing trouble. Ya used the heart-binding curse to bind our hearts together. Meng smiled bitterly and cried. Heart-binding curse? Zhang Xiaohua was dazed and didn't know how to answer. Xiaohua, do you think we only met once outside Poyang town and it'll be engraved in our hearts forever? Can you think about it every day and night? Can you not eat or drink? Meng said while crying. Why not? Meng, I've always treated you like this. And sometimes when I think about you, my heart aches and I feel happy. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. Meng's eyes lit up and she said happily, I feel the same. But then she shook her head and said, But we were trapped by Ya using the heart-binding curse. This is all Ya's doing. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua still didn't understand, Meng wiped her tears and said, In fact, as early as when you came here, she first established the Tenryu sect. She called herself Sakra and trained a few heavenly kings. In order to increase her power, Ya established the Dalan Temple. She combined the kung fu of the devil world with some exercises she got from the Buddhism sect and formed the Dalan Temple. On the surface, the exercises of the Dalan Temple were Buddhism sect's exercises, but the foundation was the exercises of the devil cult. All the monks of the Dalan Temple had succeeded in practicing them. After they passed away, their relics became elixirs for Ya to increase her power. Later, when Ya was fighting with Wan Wuxin, Yu Mingxin and Yang Haoya for an extremely rare thing, she was seriously injured by the three of them. When Ya hid in the Gue Yuan Tower of the Dalan Temple to heal herself, she accidentally found a kind of mantra of the Buddhism sect. Xiaohua, you also know that the monks of the Dalan Temple abstain from sex. The reason why they abstain from sex is because of this mantra. And this mantra was unintentionally copied from the Buddhism sect. Ya comprehended this mantra and combined it with some kind of secret method of the devil cult. Ya found a way to live forever. Live forever. Zhang Xiaohua almost cried out. Yes, live forever. Meng looked at Zhang Xiaohua and said, Didn't you see me? How many years have I lived? Zhang Xiaohua nodded blankly. Meng sighed and continued, Ya's method was to find a man and according to the mantra, cast the heart unite mantra in the hearts of Ya and this man. Then Ya and this man fell in love and got married. This man was the second generation Sakra apart from Ya. Then, Ya and Sakra gave birth to a daughter, which was the first generation saintess. This saintess was an independent person, but because Ya and Sakra had the heart unite mantra, this saintess had the seed of Ya's consciousness in her consciousness. When the saintess was 6 years old, according to the secret method, Ya quietly died. Once Ya died, her seed in the saintess consciousness began to germinate. At that time, the saintess consciousness began to become chaotic. After a few months or years, Ya's consciousness grew up and swallowed the saintess consciousness. This saintess then became Ya. At this time, Ya wasn't much different from an ordinary person. She should spend most of her time in the Tenryu sect. Then, Ya would go to the Dalan Temple's Gue Yuan Tower and swallow the relics in the Gue Yuan Tower to increase her power. When Ya's power was successful and reached a certain age, Ya would go to the pugilistic world to find another man and cast the heart unite mantra again to let herself and another man fall in love and fall in love. Like this, the saintess of the Tenryu sect will always be Ya. Do you understand? Xiaohua, this is what the Tenryu sect passed down. The child of Sakura and the saintess must be a girl.
First there was the saintess, then there was Sakura, then there was Sakura, then there were the 8 heavenly kings.
This was how they came to be. Meng looked at Zhang Xiaohua with tears in her eyes again and said while crying, "And I am this generation's saintess, which is also the reincarnated Ya. Xiaohua, you are the man that you will choose from the pugilistic world in this life. You are destined to fall in love with Ya and help each other in difficult times. You are destined to be this generation's Sakura, your daughter, the next generation's saintess, and also the next generation's Ya's reincarnation. This matter should have been done after you became an adult, but I don't know why. She actually did it. When she met you at the ferry. Perhaps it's because you look very similar to that immortal Xiaohua, and you was extremely afraid of this immortal Xiaohua, so when she met you at the ferry, she felt that you were her biggest threat at the first moment and cast her most powerful heart unite mantra on you."
Meng seemed to be recalling something and said, "This is also the only reason why you fell in love with me."
Zhang Xiaohua's face turned ashen as she listened. Her eyes were at a loss and she didn't know how to answer.
She had never thought that her painstakingly engraved love for Meng was just a method that she used to play with the human world, a method for her to live forever.
"So, Xiaohua, I don't have the qualifications to talk about love with you. Our love is really a kind of absurdity."
Meng cried with tears in her eyes. However, according to Ya's memory, it seems she found another method from the ring you gave her. Perhaps in the future, your daughter won't have this kind of tragedy again.
But it definitely won't. Yeah, she wants to swallow you. Speaking up to here, Meng's eyes turned blood red and her face turned cold. Her tone changed again. "Humph, what kind of storm does a little consciousness want to cause? I don't know how many of these little things I've swallowed." She then looked at Zhang Xiaohua and said coldly, "Since you already know, I won't say anything more. Although I found a way to live forever without reincarnation, I can't guarantee that this method will be completely useful. So, as the man of this generation who was implanted with a heart-binding curse with me, you have to stay by my side for the rest of your life. Unless absolutely necessary, I won't abandon you." Zhang Xiaohua's eyes were already filled with determination. She stared at Ya and said coldly, "Your method is the demon flag?" "Haha, yes, it's the demon flag. It's a method to refine the blood of 10,000 spirits. If it succeeds, not to mention me, even you, I can guarantee that you'll live forever." Zhang Xiaohua shook her head slightly. "This kind of longevity, it's better not to have it." "Ha ha ha, this kind of longevity. It's better not to have it. What a big tone." Ya laughed maniacally. "I've been struggling at death's door since tens of thousands of years ago. I've reared the Dalan Temple in captivity, released the techniques of the demon realm, and searched for the saintess and Sakura. Isn't everything I've done for the sake of longevity? How long have you lived? How do you know the wonders of longevity?" "Humph, humph," as the ancient people said, if you can understand the true meaning of life, if two people have truly loved each other, even if you only live for a day, it's enough. If you don't understand why you live, don't know what love is, and only treat love as a tool to prolong your feeble existence, then, even if you've lived for tens of thousands of years, what's the use of living until you're as old as heaven and earth?" "Ha ha ha ha," Ya laughed maniacally again. "You're just a little human, but you're just my food. You actually want to talk about love with me? What is love? I don't need to know, and I don't want to know. You're just despicable creatures, and your emotions are even more despicable. And the love you speak of is fake, it doesn't even exist. It's just one of my techniques. You actually treat it as real? I saw that little thing tossing and turning over there. It's really stubborn. It actually doesn't want to be devoured by me." Then he pointed at Peacock, Zhang Xiaohu and the rest and said, "I know, Yu Mingxin from the incense cult, and Yang Haoya from the Misty School, they should have been able to cultivate successfully, but they were delayed by this so-called love. Both of their Tao foundations were damaged. One of them was wallowing in self-pity beside the sorrowless lake, while the other came to the Dalan Temple to look for me, Sakura from the demon realm, to find a way to cut off their love. Ha 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 ha, what happened to them in the end? One was suppressed under the frowning tower by me, never to be reincarnated, while the other died on the misty peak, never to enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. But, after all, they've loved before." Zhang Xiaohua was enraged. She moved her divine sense and a few sword lights pierced towards Ya.
aiming at Ya's head which was not covered by the demonic flag. Haha, you're finally willing to do it. Ya laughed. If you kill me, you'll never see your dream again. The small sword was like lightning, piercing Ya's face. But, just as the flying sword touched Ya's face, the demonic flag quietly extended upwards, covering Ya's entire face, blocking the small sword. Xianxia did not expect to succeed so easily. She reached out her hand and wanted to take out the Hao Tian mirror at the same time, but the Hao Tian mirror was connected to the other 9 instruments. Xianxia was in a hurry and could not take it out. Left with no choice, Xianxia took out the Sangarama plate. Seeing Xianxia take out the Sangarama plate, Peacock gritted her teeth. She did not know what to feel. Although she had guessed that Great Elder Jinggang was killed by Xianxia, she did not want to admit it. Xianxia couldn't care less. He held the Sangarama plate in his hand and formed a seal with his right hand. True energy shot out from his fingertips and he pointed at the plate. A ball of light blue light emerged from the Sangarama plate, and the sound of surging waves could be heard. Xianxia gritted his teeth and pointed his finger. The ball of light was like a pillar of water, heading straight for Ya's head. Haha, Ya laughed. You're just a cultivator in the chi refining stage. What can you do? This little bit of congenital water is not even enough to wash my feet. As expected, you did not move at all. When the innate water that was as heavy as a mountain fell, he only waved his sleeve. A faint black gas was produced from the demonic flag and turned into a faint black lotus. It was supported by the faint blue brilliance. Although the water was turbulent, it could not smash down no matter what. Next, Xianxia did not hesitate. He took out the dragon binding hoop and tossed it into the air. The dragon binding hoop grew in the wind, and flames appeared around it. It turned into a hoop that was about 1 zhang wide, and it covered Ya's head. These are just some toys that I used to play with. There was a faint smile on Ya's face. He did not activate the demonic flag, and only pointed his hand in the air. A red light flashed and hit the dragon binding hoop. With a kang sound, the light on the dragon binding hoop was extinguished, and the flames were extinguished. With a pu sound, Ya fell from the air. Humph! Xianxia snorted coldly. She took out 2 purple phoenix hairpins, 1 in each hand, and channeled all her true chi into the 2 hairpins. Kacha, kacha, 2 thunderous sounds came from the 2 hairpins. In an instant, 2 bolts of lightning were emitted from the 2 hairpins. These 2 bolts of lightning were different. The one in the left hand had a golden glow, and the one in the right hand had a white glow. The 2 bolts of lightning flew out of the purple phoenix hairpins, and immediately absorbed the yuan chi of heaven and earth from the surrounding air. They kept expanding. When the 2 bolts of lightning flew closer, countless tiny bolts of lightning were formed between the 2 bolts of lightning. When they reached Ya's head, they had already turned into a net of lightning. This purple phoenix hairpin is the token of love between Yu Ming Xian and Yang Hao Ya. How could I not have seen it before? If the 2 of them were to use it, I might be a little afraid. Although you have tried your best, your cultivation is too weak. The purple phoenix hairpin's power is like the light of a firefly. When you saw this, he didn't seem to be nervous at all. He just casually flicked his finger, and another red brilliance hit the center of the electric net. Boom! Countless thunderbolts were quickly annihilated under the red brilliance. In just a breath's time, they were completely annihilated. There was still a small wisp of the red light. It did not stop there, and it went straight for the purple phoenix hairpin in Xianxia's hand. Xianxia frowned and immediately put away the purple phoenix hairpin. She reached out and took out another item. It was the small seal that she had obtained earlier. Xianxia threw the small seal into the sky. The seal immediately expanded and turned into a huge rock, smashing down on Ya's head. Haha, little lover, I'm afraid you don't have anything good in your hands. Seeing Xianxia throw out the small seal, Ya almost laughed out loud. He pointed his finger, and the seal immediately spun in the air and fell from the sky. However, Xianxia had a lot of things in her hands. Before the small seal fell, she took out another item. It was the so-called Tree of 7 Wonders. Hee, little lover, you have a lot of treasures. Unfortunately, this Tree of 7 Wonders belongs to the Buddhist sect. Can you control it? Ya sneered. Bang! The crimson light hit the wonderful tree of 7 treasures. Zhang Xiaohua's hand trembled, and then his chest trembled. He didn't know how you did it. She could no longer control her body. The tree of 7 wonders in her hand fell in the direction of Zhang Xiaohu and the rest. Zhang Xiaohua's body was in mid-air. Her blood was boiling in her chest, and a mouthful of blood rushed up to her throat. When she landed beside the lotus throne, she could only calm her blood. A small stream of blood seeped out from the corner of her mouth. Xiaohua! Zhang Xiaohu saw Zhang Xiaohua vomiting blood. He panicked and shouted. Peacock and Chen Chen saw that there were traces of golden blood on Zhang Xiaohua's body, and they were shocked. Ha ha ha, how is it? You laughed maniacally. With the demon flag. Even though I have less than 30% of my previous cultivation, but here, there is no match for me. As he spoke, a condensed divine sense was sent out from Ya. It swept towards Zhang Xiaohua fiercely. This. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. The divine sense was extremely dense and heavy. Her divine sense was similar to Ya's. She was just an infant boy who did not know how to walk. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the dreamlike face. No, it was a dream. She opened her eyes wide, gritted her teeth, and reached into her clothes again. She could not control the Hao Tian mirror just now. It should be because of the 10 magical items in the pouch. But now, other than the Hao Tian mirror, Zhang Xiaohua only had a few pearls and a few gourds. She did not know how to use them. Thinking about it, Zhang Xiaohua took out the Hao Tian mirror. It seemed that the Hao Tian mirror was unwilling to appear. It was heavy in Zhang Xiaohua's hands. Ah! Kunlun mirror. When you saw the Hao Tian mirror, his eyeballs almost fell out. He pointed at Zhang Xiaohua in disbelief and said, You, when did you see Xiaohua? Is he here too? As he spoke, his eyes didn't stop looking around. His divine sense also spread out in all directions. Zhang Xiaohua didn't give her time to think. Although he hadn't mastered the first level of the clear sky mirror, and the clear sky mirror didn't listen to him, he still poured his vital energy into the clear sky mirror as if it didn't cost him anything. The clear sky mirror started to glow faintly after receiving his vital energy, and its surface started to blur. You looked around and didn't see any enlightened Master Xiaohua. Only then did he feel relieved. Then, he looked at Zhang Xiaohua's method of injecting his zhenqi into the clear sky mirror. He couldn't help but smile and said, Young master, you must have never seen Xiaohua before. Xiaohua's Kunlun mirror is not something that a qi refining stage kid like you can control. But then he tilted his head and said, But, why do you look so similar to Xiaohua? Also, you have not seen Xiaohua, but you can actually disguise yourself as him? It's really strange. Hee, but if this mirror is really the Kunlun mirror, then I can't escape into the void at will? While he was talking, the Kunlun mirror shone brightly as if something was about to rush out. But you did not panic. He only scanned Zhang Xiaohua with his divine sense and laughed again. Don't use your strength, little lover. If this is not the Kunlun mirror, even if you can use it, you can't do anything to me. But if it is the Kunlun mirror, it is one of the 10 treasures of creation. Only immortals can use it. You are just a mortal. How can you control it? Why don't you leave some of your true qi and we can sit down and have a good chat? Before he finished speaking, the Haotian mirror dimmed again. Zhang Xiaohua felt a huge force coming from the Haotian mirror and hitting her dantian. A kind of incomparable discomfort surged out from her body. With a puff, she spat out a mouthful of essence blood, which fell on the Haotian mirror. With a swish, the Haotian mirror shone brightly. A huge suction force came from the Haotian mirror and swept away all the true qi in Zhang Xiaohua's body like a whale swallowing water. With a buzz, the Haotian mirror trembled slightly. Suddenly, a misty light shot towards Ya. When you saw Zhang Xiaohua spit out a mouthful of blood on the Haotian mirror, he felt something was wrong. As soon as the light came out, he flashed and several black phantoms appeared in front of Zhang Xiaohua. The light of the Haotian mirror hit the phantoms and all the phantoms were shattered. It was Ya who appeared in midair. Kunlun mirror. Is this really the Kunlun mirror? You still didn't believe it. However, his body didn't slow down. The light of the Haotian mirror was like a maggot in one's bones. Wherever you flew, the light would follow. Humph.
So what if it is the Kunlun mirror? After flying for a while, Ya's face turned cold. He landed and waved his hand. The demon flag was pulled out from his body. He raised it in midair and blocked the light. The light hit the demon flag with a puff sound. Black gas surged out from the demon flag. It was like a snowflake that was doused with hot water. It instantly disappeared. Ya looked at the demon flag with great heartache. The black gas on the demon flag gradually dimmed. Fortunately, the light of the Haotian mirror also gradually disappeared. When the light of the Haotian mirror completely disappeared, Ya let out a long sigh. He turned around and landed in front of Zhang Xiaohua. He looked at Zhang Xiaohua from head to toe with an extremely strange expression. You? Who are you? How did Xiaohua's Kunlun mirror fall into your hands? Zhang Xiaohua looked at Ya. She had already put the Haotian mirror into her purse. She sneered and said, "Of course I am me. I don't know who Xiaohua is. This mirror is called the Haotian mirror. It is not the Kunlun mirror that you are talking about." Ah! It really is the Kunlun mirror. Ya's face was filled with excitement. However, his face was also filled with confusion. The Kunlun mirror is a respectful name for the Haotian mirror. This mirror is the Haotian mirror. As he spoke, his face turned cold again. I don't care how you know Xiaohua. You better hand over the Kunlun mirror. An unparalleled divine sense attacked Zhang Xiaohua, however. Just when the divine sense touched Zhang Xiaohua, the divine sense suddenly stopped and quickly retracted. The red color in Ya's eyes gradually dimmed. Meng actually came out again. Xiaohua, I am afraid that I can only see you for the last time. I have something that I have always wanted to tell you. If I don't say it, I will not be able to die in peace. Although Meng did not have any cultivation, she was also floating in the air with the help of the devil flag. At this moment, how could Zhang Xiaohua still care whether she was Meng or Ya? She reluctantly used the last of her true energy to fly and come to Meng's side. Xiaohua, don't despise me. As Meng spoke, she stretched out her hand and grabbed Zhang Xiaohua's hand. Although Ya's seed is in my consciousness, my heart and my body love you. And I know. Zhang Xiaohua nodded with tears in her eyes. Actually, Little Blossom, I think I'm quite lucky. I don't know how many saintesses I've devoured before. Each of them was only a few years old. Those saintesses had never tasted love or the feeling of being loved. I'm very grateful to the heavens for arranging for me to meet you in my inevitable ending. I have a mutual love with you. Even though this love is just the effect of the heart-binding curse, but, little flower, it is the real love between us. Love is love. No matter how it appears, if there is love, there is love. Even though this love is weak, shallow, and short, different from other kinds of love, it is still a kind of love, a love that belongs to you and me. This love is very pure and very sincere. I am willing to use my not long life to protect this strange love. Please believe that I really love you. Even Ya, she cannot deny it. Zhang Xiaohua opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she could not say anything. Meng held his hand again and said, I have always wanted to help you in times of need. Unfortunately, I am afraid that our promise will not come true. However, perhaps it is more suitable for us to forget each other in the martial arts world. Since it is better to forget each other in the martial arts world than to help each other in times of need, Xiaohua, let's forget each other in the martial arts world. Although the martial arts world is very far away, I will always only have you in my heart. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaohua's hand tightened, and Meng's eyes began to turn red again. Quick, Xiaohua, there is no time. I feel that I am getting weaker and weaker. If you don't kill me while I am still alive, you will never have the chance to kill me. If you can't live, how can we forget each other in the martial arts world? If you can't kill Ya, then who in the world can stop her? I am afraid that everyone in the world will be killed by her as a sacrifice to the flag? Meng's eyes gradually turned red, and Meng's face was filled with reluctance and desperation. Zhang Xiaohua gritted her teeth and chasing dream turned into countless sword lights and stabbed towards Meng's throat. However, just as the flying sword was about to pierce Meng's throat, the demonic flag extended upwards and blocked the flying sword. The flying sword could not pierce any further. Zhang Xiaohua was shocked. She moved her divine sense again and attacked Meng's head. However,
The demonic flag covered the entire head just like before, and the flying sword could not enter. Ha ha ha! You finally appeared and held Zhang Xiaohua's hand. What an affectionate husband. However, what kind of intimate method are you using? The flying sword had no effect, so it flew back to Zhang Xiaohua. When Zhang Xiaohua saw Chasing Dream, her eyes lit up. She reached out with her left hand and grabbed it. Then, she used the nameless sword skill and stabbed towards Ya's throat. A strange flow of energy flowed out from her left arm and flowed along her arm into Chasing Dream. Heh heh, can such a small sword hurt me? Ya was extremely disdainful. Like swatting a fly, she swatted the small sword away from her throat. Zhang Xiaohua did not stop there. He continued to stab at Ya's heart. Little lover, don't tell me. You want to get physical now? Ya smiled and straightened her perky chest. However, before she could say another word, Chasing Dream stabbed towards Ya's chest. The demonic flag's black fog churned and a red light flashed. However, with a poochie sound, the demonic flag that the flying sword could not pierce was pierced through by Chasing Dream. Just as Ya was still smiling, Chasing Dream stabbed into her heart, and the flow of energy flowed into her heart. This. Ya's face was pale. She said in disbelief. You. What? What kind of magic weapon is this? Zhang Xiaohua did not dare to answer. Chasing Dream in her hand had pierced an extremely hard spot. As the energy flowed in, that extremely hard spot immediately exploded, releasing an extremely strong force that hit Chasing Dream. Chasing Dream. It should be called Chasing Dream now. It instantly turned into powder, and purple blood flowed out from Ya's heart. It flowed onto the demonic flag. The demonic flag absorbed Ya's blood. Immediately, a red light flashed again. Ya was shocked. She hurriedly used her mental cultivation method, wanting to heal the wound in her heart. Unfortunately, that mysterious flow of energy had already destroyed Ya's heart. No matter what method you used, the blood in her heart continued to flow out, and her heart was gradually destroyed along with the flow of energy. You pointed at Zhang Xiaohua. She wanted to use her powers to kill her, but it was too late. In just a moment, the demonic flag gradually fell off from Ya's body, revealing Ya in purple robes. Xiaohua, you finally succeeded. The red light in Ya's eyes receded. Dream came out again and said with a smile, I will never see you again in the future. But you finally hit Ya's vital point. Ya no longer cares about devouring me. She is looking for a way to save herself. Then, Dream looked at the snowflakes that were still fluttering in the sky and the red clouds in the sky. She said in disappointment, Is this leaving? Am I going to leave this world just like this? But, to be able to accompany the man in my heart for so long, I am already satisfied. Xiaohua, you say, is there really immortality in this world? Yeah. She is so heartless. What's the point of living for so long? If there is some elixir of immortality, I will not use it myself. If you want to use it, let's use it together. Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He flew forward and held Meng in his arms. He took out the longevity pill from his money bag and held it in front of Meng's eyes. He said sadly, Perhaps this is your so-called elixir of immortality. Dream felt strange. She reached out and took it. She opened the bottle and looked at the pill inside. But then, a strange smile appeared on her face. She shook her head slightly and said, I know this thing. From Ya's memory, this seems to be an extremely precious beauty pill in the cultivation world. After taking it, you can keep your face at that time for the rest of your life. Ha ha ha, Dream's eyes turned red again. You said, this kind of elixir is the love of women. I can still get it before I die. Then, let me take it. Then, you put the beauty pill in her hand into her mouth. But just as her hand was about to reach her mouth, she stretched it out again and handed it to Zhang Xiaohua's mouth. Dream said, Xiaohua, take it. I hope you can keep your face now and not change after 100 years. Wait for my next life. I will come and find you again. Dream's eyes just stared at Zhang Xiaohua's face. It seemed that she wanted to imprint his face deeply in her heart. Even reincarnation could not erase it. Zhang Xiaohua had tears in her eyes. She sniffed the sweet fragrance between Dream's fingers and put the beauty pill in her mouth. The beauty pill melted in her mouth and turned into a medicinal power that went into her stomach. By the way, Xiaohua, Ye has destroyed the sheepskin scroll in the dense forest just now. But I know that she didn't destroy the previous one. She hid it in. Dream seemed to think of something and whispered a few words in Zhang Xiaohua's ear. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua was very sad. How could she care about this? Although the blood in Dream's chest flowed slowly, it was still flowing. Zhang Xiaohua knew that when the blood stopped flowing, it would be the time for Dream to leave. He would not be able to see his beloved again. The two of them interlocked their fingers and looked at each other. For a long time, they did not speak. Suddenly, Dream's face changed. She pushed Zhang Xiaohua and said, "Xiaohua, go. Yo is staking everything. She wants to die with you." Then, Dream looked deeply at Zhang Xiaohua for the last time. She used her left hand to pull Zhang Xiaohua's head over and kissed Zhang Xiaohua's lips deeply. She smiled and said, "I guessed the process, but I didn't guess the ending. This process will forever be engraved in my heart. Xiaohua, wait. In the next life, I will love you again." As she spoke, she waved her hand and tightly grasped the demonic flag before closing her eyes. Meng's expression started to change. First it was pain. Then it frowned. After that, it started to emit lights of various colors. In the end, Meng's body suddenly flew up into the sky. With a bang, she exploded and the demonic flag was blasted away. "Dream!" Zhang Xiaohua shouted and flew into the air. She reached out and grabbed the demon flag. But besides the disappearing bloodstain on the flag, there was only the ring that Zhang Xiaohua gave Dream. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua suddenly felt a popping sound in her heart. It was as if a lock had been opened, and the key was in the air in front of her. Zhang Xiaohua paused for a moment, then seemed to understand. She opened her left hand and released all of the divine sense in her Naiwan palace into her Dharma eye. When the silver-white eyes opened, Zhang Xiaohua could clearly see that Dream was not far away from her. Next to her was Ye, who looked exactly like Dream, but was pitch black, had horns on her head, and had wings on her back. Zhang Xiaohua didn't have time to think and quickly chased after her. But just as Zhang Xiaohua was about to catch up to Dream, a pitch-black crack appeared beside Dream, and the two of them were about to enter that crack. "Dream!" Zhang Xiaohua shouted as he reached out with his right hand to grab Dream's hand. Dream seemed to sense it and turned around to look at Zhang Xiaohua. It was a pair of large eyes, thick eyebrows, a dimple, and a beauty mark. End of Volume 1. Published on November 24, 2011, 22:53. Chapter 12:24. There are many details in the story of cultivating God that are worth everyone's consideration. If you look at it carefully, there are really a lot of things for everyone to think about. The love in the novel can be used for everyone's reference. Therefore, I will write a little bit of the third flower first. It can be considered as throwing a brick to attract jade. The first love, needless to say, was Zhang Xiaolong and Lu Qian. The love of these two people seemed a bit far-fetched, but if you think about it carefully, it is reasonable. Lu Qian was from a scholarly family in the countryside, and could be considered a pretty daughter of a humble family. Her view of love was to find a scholar like her father, Mr. Lu, and her brother, Lu Kai, and marry them. This way, the husband and wife would have a common language, and the wife would follow suit. Who knows, they might even sing and write poems that would be passed down for generations to come. However, things didn't go as she wished. When she went to Lu Town to shop for the new year, she was actually harassed by a bully. At this time, no young handsome master or scholar stood up. Well, Li Jinfeng was not there at that time, so Zhang Xiaolong, a righteous bumpkin, stood up. It didn't matter if he stood up, but Zhang Kai, Zhang Xiaohu, and Zhang Xiaohua also stood up. Not to mention that it provoked Wen Wenhai and Xue Qing, but it also provoked the relationship between Zhang Xiaohua and the Misty School. Perhaps Lu Qian was grateful to Wen Wenhai at that time and had some good feelings, but Xue Qing next to him was a good match for Wen Wenhai. Of course, Lu Qian couldn't express it casually. Then, Lu Qian stayed in the Zhang family in order to take care of Zhang Xiaolong. Lu Qian, who lacked maternal love since she was a child, envied the warmth of the Zhang family. Zhang Xiaolong was not bad-looking. Although he lacked the influence of a scholar, he spoke well. More importantly, He had a manly spirit and dared to take responsibility. This made Lu Qian, who was a weak scholar in the family, very curious. Naturally, she had a good impression of him. Since ancient times, when a hero saved a beauty, the beauty would repay the hero with her body. This was a good story. Perhaps it was because Lu Qian had seen too many good stories from the ancient people, so she had a bold idea. Of course, Mr. Lu was against this kind of relationship. Saving a life was one thing, but getting married was another. He did not wish for his daughter to become a peasant woman. It was impossible for Mr. Lu to not have a sleepless night at that time. When he arrived at the Guozhuang house, he saw the Zhang family's dilapidated state, and then looked at the Zhang family's lack of etiquette. He probably already gave Zhang Xiaolong a big red cross. It was a pity that Lu Qian was determined to pursue her own happiness. She wanted to make this marriage come true. What could Mr. Lu do? Perhaps he was thinking for his daughter, or perhaps he was learning from his own mistakes. Of course, it could also be that he was afraid that his daughter would elope with Zhang Xiaolong. Well, he had read too much about this in books, so he reluctantly agreed. The spring water of the Zhang family was, of course, a very important tool. However, thinking about it now, the spring water was just a reason for Lu Qian to persuade Mr. Lu. Similarly, this spring water was also a way for Mr. Lu to step down. It was just that this step was a little big. It was indeed a good thing. Lu Ye's love. An old saying, there was a love in front of Lu Ye's eyes, but she did not cherish it. If she knew that Zhang Xiaohu would be the big gang leader of the Misty School in the future, she would definitely choose Zhang Xiaohu if she was given another chance. However, who would know about this matter? Even Chang'e absolutely did not know about Zhang Xiaohu's future development. From Lu Ye's point of view, Zhang Xiaohu saved us, and I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. However, it was impossible for me to repay him with my body. I have my own right to love. Lu Ye's choice was not wrong. It was the choice of a pretty girl from a humble family. Her life was not wrong and it was also happy. It was also Lu Qian's earliest choice. However, it depended on who was compared to. Lu Qian? Compared to a woman who lived in an immortal's mansion, and a woman whose son was destined to be an immortal in the future? Lu Ye's love was only a comparison of Lu Qian's love. Mr. Lu's love. There was not much in the text, but it could be seen that this love was a failure. Although Mr. Lu had literary talent, he was not good at socializing. Even if he got an official position, he would be ostracized by others, and he would not have a happy life. It was better for him to resign and go home to teach. However, this made Lu Qian's mother suffer. She was the daughter of a rich family, and she was spoiled since childhood. For the sake of her ideal love, she married Mr. Lu. She had hoped that Mr. Lu would be able to show his ambition in his career and prove her vision. However, unexpectedly, although their life in Bali village was as sweet as honey, their life was poor and the most pitiful. For Mr. Lu and Lu Qian, Miss Jiao had to work, and her body was exhausted. She died after giving birth to Lu Qian. This love showed that it was the right choice to be matched in terms of social status. If this principle was abandoned, there was a high chance that life would not be happy. I think that the text did not mention whether Lu Qian's mother regretted it, but, in the end, she died of exhaustion. There must be some element of regret. Xue Qing and Wen Wenhai's love. It was the kind of love that belonged to the office. The two people in the sect were usually quiet, and neither of them expressed their feelings to the other. Neither of them could tell that the other was interested in them. Even when they went on business trips together, there was nothing ambiguous. However, it was precisely this kind of indifferent feeling that maintained the good feelings between the two of them until the company suddenly went bankrupt, and the two of them were acquired by another company. They were in the most basic and most tiring positions, suffering the supercilious looks and unfair treatment from others. So, as fellow sufferers, the indifferent good feelings gradually turned into love. This kind of situation was extremely common. The most important thing was that the original company was reorganized, and the two of them were rehired by their own apprentices as executives of the company. As a result, it was natural for them to be together. Naturally, the two of them were the disciples of the sect. The love between O Peng and Yang Rupiang was very tragic. To be honest, the two of them were like Romeo and Juliet. The two of them belonged to different sections. On the surface, these two sects were very close, but because of the sect's interests, there were bound to be conflicts. When this conflict became prominent, it would affect the relationship between the two. In particular, O Peng was the leader of the Misty School, and Yang Ruping was the disciple of the leader of the fragrance cult. Their relationship was even more affected by the relationship between the two sects. However, when the two of them met by the Sorrowless Lake, they fell in love at first sight. Although their parents were against it, the two of them, like Lu Qian's mother, ignored the opposition and insisted on being together. In order not to affect her family, Yang Ruping did not ask about the matters of the Misty School. In order not to affect O Peng, the two of them did not even want to have a child. But in the end, in the face of the absolute sex interests, the interests of the small family must be abandoned. One must look at the big picture and sacrifice. Thinking about O Peng's feelings at that time, from the perspective of others, he did not have to commit suicide at all. At worst, he could just go to the fragrance cult and be an idle son-in-law. But presumably, when O Peng married Yang Ruping, he said something big, but now? He was forced by his mother-in-law, and he did not have any strength to deal with it. Of course, his heart was extremely regretful, so he died. Of course, there was another reason. O Peng may not believe that Yang Ruping did not inform the fragrance cult about the secret plane, but he did not dare to confirm it for fear of destroying the love in his heart. O Peng was infatuated and a good man. He wasn't sure what Yang Ruping would do after his death, but for insurance, he still handed over the disciples of the Misty sect to Yang Ruping. He believed that no matter whether Yang Ruping informed the fragrant religion about the secret plane or not, she would treat the disciples of the Misty sect well. And Yang Ruping naturally wouldn't commit suicide to follow him. In fact, what about this love? It was a tragedy, just like Romeo and Juliet. If it were not for O Peng, maybe Yang Ruping would have passed the test of the refining heart cave and got the inheritance. And without Yang Ruping, maybe O Peng would not commit suicide? Zhang Xiaohu and Chang'e. The love of these two people was very universal. It was like a new employee in a company who admired a senior beauty in the company. Although he knew that he was not qualified to pursue, he always did not want to give up his own ideas. During the period when Zhang Xiaohua disappeared, Zhang Xiaohu returned to the Misty School to practice martial arts hard and asked O Peng to find Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohu must have looked for Chang'e a lot. On one hand, he reported his thoughts, and on the other hand, he talked about his pain. Women were generally soft-hearted. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohu had his own family and love in his heart, and such a manly man also had such tenderness in his heart, it was easy for pity to turn into love. There must be many male disciples in the Misty School who pursued Chang'e, but they must have used their strength to show their manliness. They were all the same, and Chang'e naturally did not like them. They could not be compared to Zhang Xiaohu's twisted path. Another opportunity for Zhang Xiaohu was that when the Misty School was destroyed, he had the opportunity to be a hero and protect the beauty. The article did not mention that the Misty School was brought back by the fragrance cult, but it must have been difficult. Zhang Xiaohu must have used this opportunity to show his manly side again. Although this was similar to the male disciples in the Misty School, the timing was different. Chang'e also saw it differently, so naturally the effect was different. Therefore, Chang'e was captured by Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohu and Chen Chen. Everyone said that this love was very sudden and felt incredible, but think about it again. What does it mean to say that the sister-in-law is half of the brother-in-law's butt? Chen Chen followed Chang'e every day. When Zhang Xiaohu was courting Chang'e, of course, Chen Chen was listening by the side. Even later, when Chang'e and Zhang Xiaohu's relationship deepened and she sent Chen Chen away, Chen Chen must have been eavesdropping. When a young girl yearned for love, of course, she would use Zhang Xiaohu as a standard to find her other half, but if she used Zhang Xiaohu as a standard, did that not mean that she used Zhang Xiaohu as her other half? Moreover, feelings were born with time. The three of them were often together. How could Chen Chen not have feelings for Zhang Xiaohu? Also in the novel, Zhang Xiaohua said more than once that Zhang Xiaohu and Chen Chen were senior brother and junior sister. It was said that one should guard against fire, burglars, and seniors. After the experience of the Misty School being destroyed and the process of Zhang Xiaohu protecting Chang'e and Chen Chen, this senior brother, naturally, Chen Chen fell in love with him. As for Zhang Xiaohu, it was easy for a man to have feelings for a woman. After spending a lot of time together, it was impossible for Zhang Xiaohu not to know Chen Chen's feelings. It was also because of Chang'e that Zhang Xiaohu dared not face it. However, things took a turn for the better. In Mo Xian's palace, Nun Jingyi randomly matched a couple and betrothed O Yan to Zhang Xiaohu. For the sake of the Misty School, O Yan and Zhang Xiaohu both agreed, but because Chang'e objected, Zhang Xiaohu finally went back on his word. Why did Chang'e object? It was very simple. O Yan was better than her in all aspects. O Yan was O Peng's biological sister. Chang'e was just an ordinary disciple of Mingcue Hall. O Yan's appearance was also slightly better than Chang'e's. O Yan could even gain the support of all the disciples of Ethereal sect. Therefore, after O Yan and Zhang Xiaohu were together, even if Chang'e wanted to marry Zhang Xiaohu, she had to get O Yan's consent. Of course, O Yan would know the feelings between them and might agree, but in this way, Chang'e would be inferior to O Yan forever. Chang'e was very arrogant and would feel uncomfortable, so she decided to withdraw at that time. Zhang Xiaohu was sincere to Chang'e and made the decision to marry Chang'e even if he didn't want to be the gang leader. This certainly made Chang'e feel gratified, but she also saw that the non-existent relationship between O Yan and Zhang Xiaohu had been exposed. For the sake of his position as the gang leader, Zhang Xiaohu might have something to do with O Yan in the future. Moreover, O Yan had also agreed to be with Zhang Xiaohu at that time. She might even take the initiative to find Zhang Xiaohu in the future. Therefore, when Chang'e later heard that Zhang Xiaohu asked Chen Chen to go back to the Guozhuang house with him, she also agreed. Of course, this agreement was because she thought that Zhang Xiaohu might be sacrificed this time. In order to satisfy Zhang Xiaohu's wish, it could not be ruled out that she had been thinking about it for a long time. Chang'e was not necessarily unaware of the flirting between Zhang Xiaohu and Chen Chen, but she never said anything before Zhang Xiaohu made it clear. What about her consideration during this period of time? How to get rid of the threat O Yan? How to get rid of her? The best way was to find another wife for Zhang Xiaohu, one that Zhang Xiaohu was satisfied with. Chen Chen was of course the most suitable. She had been with Chang'e since childhood and listened to everything Chang'e said. In the future, she would not pose a threat to Chang'e. Chang'e did this to tell Zhang Xiaohu, "Look, I know you and Chen Chen are close, so I let her follow you so don't think about others anymore." As for O Yan, she knew that Zhang Xiaohu had 2 wives. How could she be the second one? Therefore, Chang'e's threat was gone. This was also the reason why Chang'e agreed to Chen Chen. Zhang Xiaohua and Nye Qianyu. This love story is the most discussed in this article. It can be said that it's the main love story of Zhang Xiaohua. It's just that you don't understand love when you're in your first love. Everyone can recall, how many of your first loves were able to be together? It's precisely because they couldn't be together that it's unforgettable. Then let's think about it. Back then, was this pure and sweet love just a blur in your heart? Maybe you didn't even know this is love? Maybe it's an inadvertent glance, maybe it's an inadvertent collision, maybe it's a deliberate conflict between you and her. Aren't these all the manifestations of first love? However, this kind of love. Did you say it out loud back then? Presumably, most people didn't. And in the future, when you look back, it's both sweet and regretful. First love is sweet and bitter, especially for Nye Qianyu. In order to show her ability to Valley Master Nye Qianyu volunteered to go somewhere to get the key of the primordial stone. Valley Master Nye had the same idea as O Peng. He thought that Nye Qianyu was a little girl and wouldn't attract attention. He just needed to quietly take out the key. Unexpectedly, she was discovered by Between the Clouds and the Water, who had been watching the Fragrance Cult and Rejuvenation Valley for a long time. They chased her all the way. At the last moment, the little girl was saved by Zhang Xiaohua. Although Zhang Xiaohua's behavior at that time was vulgar, but she had an inner beauty. Moreover, young men and women mingled along the way, and it was easy for sparks of love to appear. Not to mention our Xiaohua, who was so righteous and would accompany her from thousands of miles away. How could Nye Qianyu, who had just awakened to love for the first time, not open her heart? Nye Qianyu was extremely intelligent. She had a unique view on the love between men and women. In this aspect, she was somewhat similar to Lu Qian. Yes, it was a girl chasing a guy. Zhang Xiaohua, if you don't say anything, then fine, I will. When I say something, I won't say it clearly. I will only use some vague words and some concrete actions to express my love for you. Of course, the competition on the arena had fully demonstrated Nie Qianyu's feelings for Zhang Xiaohua. If she didn't have feelings for Zhang Xiaohua, would she be worth it to enter the wolf's den after just getting out of the fire pit? Unfortunately, on one hand, Zhang Xiaohua had dreams in her heart. On the other hand, Zhang Xiaohua still missed her second brother. Therefore, although she was aware of Nie Qianyu's feelings, she was as ignorant as us when we were young and didn't know how to cherish it. However, Zhang Xiaohua felt a little guilty in her heart. When they parted ways at Rejuvenation Valley, she couldn't help but impart the first level of the Carefree Heart Sutra to Nie Qianyu when she saw how sad she was. Of course, this way, on one hand, she had resolved their fate. On the other hand, their status had been confirmed. First love would always be the deepest memory and would never have a happy ending. Therefore, from the beginning, the two of them didn't have a happy ending. Senior brother and junior sister were already not bad. Zhang Xiaohua and Little Orange. These two actually didn't have any love to speak of. What they did have was a budding affection for Zhang Xiaohua. It was a kind of unrequited love. At that time, Zhang Xiaohua's acting was really too good. Little Orange thought that Zhang Xiaohua was just a young man from the countryside and that Little Orange's status was more than enough for a farmer's boy. In addition, when Zhang Xiaohua appeared in a crisis, his glorious image immediately filled Little Orange's trembling heart. In addition, Zhang Xiaohua didn't have the petty character of a farmer's boy. He was a refreshing new experience for Little Orange. Therefore, she couldn't help but have feelings for him. Actually, it was understandable. Although Nie Qianyu wasn't young in Rejuvenation Valley, she matured late and definitely didn't have many suitors. However, Little Orange was different. She was Nie Qianyu's personal servant. In Nie Qianyu's words, she never treated Little Orange as an outsider. If Nie Qianyu got married, Little Orange might have to follow her. If Little Orange didn't follow her, then who in Rejuvenation Valley would be more favored by Nie Qianyu? It must be Little Orange. Therefore, among the disciples and servants of Rejuvenation Valley, there must be countless people who tried to curry favor with them. Little Orange was used to seeing people trying to curry favor with them. When he saw Zhang Xiaohua's attitude of not taking him seriously, he naturally had a rebellious mentality. You're just a child of a farmer's family. How dare you look down on me? I'm going to pay attention to you. Therefore, it was still the same old saying. The more you ignore her, the more she will stick to you. Unfortunately, when Little Orange found out about Nie Qianyu's thoughts, she would probably be angry and shy. She couldn't snatch him away and could only avoid him. Fortunately, she was Nie Qianyu's personal servant. If she got married, she could follow them. Even if she couldn't monopolize Zhang Xiaohua, she could still get a share of the action. Therefore, while she was feeling bitter, she probably didn't want Nie Qianyu and Zhang Xiaohua to be together, but she also wanted the two of them to be together. But when Little Orange found out about Zhang Xiaohua's supernatural power, which was Zhang Xiaohua's performance in the arena, her thoughts were probably the same as when Zhang Xiaohua saw Little Orange. She embroidered mandarin ducks on her handkerchief and had some unknown dreams in her heart. She buried this unknown relationship deep in her heart. Zhang Xiaohua and Peacock, Chen Chen. These two relationships shouldn't be love. It should be Peacock and Chen Chen's feelings towards the heavenly axiom when they were pursuing it. However, if the heavenly axiom fell on Zhang Xiaohua, then it would be love and pity. Everyone remembered that in Rejuvenation Valley, when Peacock saw Zhang Xiaohua, the whole world was filled with his shadow. Immediately, Zhang Xiaohua's shadow was engraved in Peacock's heart. As for Peacock, because of the Earthly Heart Sutra, she was unable to resist the temptation of the heavenly axiom. But who was Peacock? In her heart, she must be resisting her feelings towards Zhang Xiaohua, a servant from Rejuvenation Valley. It was not because she was annoyed when she heard Zhang Xiaohua calling herself a servant. If she was neither haughty nor humble, would she be pleasing to the eye? Chen Chen was the same, just not as obvious as Peacock. Although these feelings were usually not obvious, they came into play at crucial moments. Chen Chen always referred to Zhang Xiaohua as this servant, but there was something else in his heart. Peacock even mentioned Zhang Xiaohua at crucial moments. Of course, the refining heart cave pushed the relationship between the three of them to the extreme. And all of this was just an illusion. The three of them could never become real partners. Zhang Xiaohua was Chen Chen and Peacock's dream lover. Chen Chen and Peacock should also be Zhang Xiaohua's dream lover, whether they admit it or not. So, think about it. Does everyone have the same feelings? Zhang Xiaohua and Dream. This love story is the most important part of the story. I should have written more about it, but when I really wanted to write about it, I realized that I'd already written everything that should have been written, and everything that shouldn't have been written had already been written. Their love, in Ya's eyes, was an inexplicable thing. Was it not the result of his spell? But love was love. It came. No matter the reason, for Dream and Zhang Xiaohua, this was love, a love that was engraved in their bones. Because of the heart-binding curse, this relationship came inexplicably and strangely. It was love at first sight. This is what many readers don't understand. But there's no need to explain. When you read the end, you'll understand. What I want to say is, no matter if it's the fate of parents, love at first sight, or blind dates, as long as two people are together and have feelings for each other, it's true love. There's no need to be envious of other people's forms of love, because love comes in strange ways. Yu Mingxin and Yang Haoya. A fallen cultivator who tasted the sweetness of love. She felt that she had found the essence of life. For the sake of her lover, she stayed by his side. This was a kind of attitude, a kind of persistence, and also a kind of price. Because she fell in love with someone she shouldn't have. And the other person, when he fell in love, he actually reined in the horse at the edge of the cliff, suddenly realized, and went to pursue his path of immortality. Unfortunately, the person he found was the devil's Sakra, so it was destined that there would be no ending. Sure enough, the ending was that Yang Haoya regretted it, but what was the use of regret? He was already a heartless man. This love was, of course, born from White Lady and Su Xian. Oh right, Yang Haoya and Yu Mingxin's love. There's also an outer chapter, Yue Wuya. Qidian. http://www.fuangsu.com/book20020887. ASPX. Those who are interested can go and take a look. It's a very realistic love. Okay, I've thrown a brick to attract jade. The story of the cultivation god has finally come to an end. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote. Chapter 1225. On the 15th day of the first lunar month, in the dense forest of Wuxia Peak, heavy snow fell from the sky like goose feathers. Not only did it cover Five Claw Peak with a thick layer of snow, but everything in the dense forest was also covered in a vast expanse of whiteness. It was impossible to distinguish the outlines of the objects. Only in the forest, in front of the hut, in the steaming hot lake, the boiling water was still making gulyalu sounds. Boiling bubbles emerged from the bottom of the lake and rushed to the surface of the water. Countless water vapor rose slowly. In the hot lake, which could boil an egg, a monster with a flat head and a slender neck was swimming freely. However, today, the monster was different from the past. It looked at the east side of the lake from time to time. In the east, near the shore, there was a golden light that was shining. The light split the hot spring water, revealing a flight of stairs that went straight from the shore to the bottom of the lake. At the end of the stairs, there was a huge and irregular magic array that occupied the entire bottom of the lake. At this time, several people were standing outside the magic array. The person in the front was thin and tall, with slender eyes and a high-nose bridge. He was carrying a sword embryo in his hand. On his left and right shoulders stood a black puppy and a yellow marten. Needless to say, this person was Zhang Xiaohua, the headmaster of Beidou School. Next to him was Zhang Xiaohu, who had a strong back and a bare waist and a stern expression. Next to Zhang Xiaohu were Changge and Chen Chen. A little further away from Zhang Xiaohua, there was a beautiful woman whose eyes were full of reluctance. She bit her lips from time to time and her eyes did not leave Zhang Xiaohua for a moment. It was Nie Qianyu. Next to Nie Qianyu was Zhang Pinger, who was holding Nie Qianyu's hand. Her face was cold, but her eyes were also full of reluctance. Further to the side, Xiaohua Ji stood with her hands down, holding a little boy in her hand. The little boy was about 4 or 5 years old, with big black eyes. He was curiously staring at the strange magic array in front of him. Ha ha ha, I finally understand why Sakra didn't allow the 4 sects of the Immortal Tao to enter this secret plane. Zhang Xiaohua stared at the array in front of her. She had long released her divine sense to check the array before she raised her head and said with a smile. So this is the transmission array. Sakura had repaired it long ago. She was afraid that the disciples of the Tao of Immortals would destroy the transmission array after they came in, right? Then he pointed at the 9 empty grooves in the magic array and said thoughtfully, she probably didn't find the right primordial stones to activate the teleportation array, so she has been staying here all this time, thinking of using the blood sacrifice method to leave. Then he raised his head and looked at the sky that was split by the brilliance. He said sadly, if Meng hadn't told me the location of the jade slip, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to enter this secret place. Senior brother sect leader's cultivation is superb. Without the jade slip, we won't be able to enter the secret plane this year. But we will be able to enter in the future. Nye Qianyu said with a smile. Nye Xiaoyu, you don't understand. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head slightly. This secret plane is an ancient magic array. I can't break it in a short time. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua, who hadn't smiled for a whole year, smiled, Nye Qianyu was overjoyed and didn't refute. Xiaohua, are you really leaving? Zhang Xiaohu asked beside her. Yes, I'm leaving. Zhang Xiaohua looked around at the crowd and said with an unusually firm tone. In fact, Meng has died. There are still many people here who you should care about. You should also have a new life. Chang'e said beside her. Although you said that you saw Meng and you separated and went into a crack. But Meng is gone after all. Even if you leave here, where can you find her? Chen, who had always been silent, said reproachfully. If you leave like this, it's better to say that you're escaping than searching. What's lost has been lost. If you can't go back in time, you should cherish the things around you and don't let the people around you be sad. This is the truth. Do you have to wait until you lose it again, before you know how to cherish it? After hearing Chen's words, Nye Qianyu and Zhang Xiaohua both blushed. However, they knew that this was not the time to be shy. They first lowered their heads, then forced themselves to raise half of their faces and look at Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned at first, then looked up at them with a trace of gentleness in her eyes. She said with a smile, Sister-in-law, although I'm stupid, I still know these principles. Meng is gone and has been separated from us. And the conjoined curse has been broken with the death of Sakura. Everything before. Alas, it can only be a dream. But, after all, it's a feeling, a kind of love. I can't regard it as a kind of nothingness like Sakura. There's a saying in ancient times, once you've crossed the sea, you can't see water. This saying may be right or wrong, but there's some truth in it. I'm afraid I still need time. Zhang Xiaohu stepped forward and looked at the array. He was a little puzzled. If you want time, we'll give you time. But you, why do you want to leave here? What ruins are you going to go to? Zhang Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Second brother, you don't understand. You've just stepped on the path of immortality for more than a year, so you don't know too many things about it. Alas, to be honest, half a year ago, I've practiced the mental cultivation method of Beidou school to the extreme and reached the 18th hurdle of Lianqi realm. Ah, so powerful? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned, and then he was a little puzzled. My Misty School's mental cultivation method seems to only have 12 hurdles. Why is your Beidou school so special? Everyone's fate is different, so the cultivation method of each school is naturally different. Zhang Xiaohua was very proud of the fact that her Beidou school's cultivation method had 6 more hurdles. But, after reaching the peak of Lianqi realm, my cultivation hasn't improved at all in the past 6 months, not even a little bit. Senior brother sect master. Zhang Pinger said timidly, disciple is the same. I've been stuck at the first hurdle of Lianqi realm for a long time. Zhang Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She waved her hand and said, progress in cultivation requires the accumulation of time. You've just cultivated to the first hurdle of Lianqi realm. Without a few years of accumulation, how can you reach the second hurdle? Moreover, you're different from me. You may feel like you haven't improved, but your true qi has always been tempered, and your cultivation has also been advancing step by step. I'm very clear about this. But Zhang Xiaohua took a deep breath and sighed. My cultivation is like a frozen block of ice, it hasn't improved at all. But Xiaohua, your cultivation is already at the top of the Jianghu. Not to mention our Misty School, Even the Dalan Temple's great master Jianghu, the cult of fragrances peacock, and the Shindao sects by Yanqiu are far inferior to you in terms of cultivation. Why do you need to seek a higher cultivation? Zhang Xiaohu asked in confusion. Heaven's way. Eternal life. Zhang Xiaohua said without hesitation. Although Sakra's behavior is very despicable, what she said is reasonable. Immortality is the ultimate goal that we cultivators of the immortal Tao pursue. Only through cultivation can we obtain eternal life. That is the true essence of cultivation. Speaking until here, Zhang Xiaohu felt even more puzzled. With a look of disappointment, he pointed at Zhang Xiaohua and said, You really don't know how to be content. You're guarding the Yaoshan Immortal Mansion. As long as you gradually refine the mansion guarding spirit steel, do you still have to worry about not being able to control the Immortal Mansion? Even you yourself said that you can only use the area used by the servants in the Immortal Mansion. If you open the other 9 colored pavilions, don't tell me you still can't find the method to cultivate to eternal life? Second brother, what you said is very true. Zhang Xiaohua smiled. This Yaoshan Immortal Mansion has a lot of secrets. As long as I can control it, there will definitely be a method to achieve eternal life. But I can't do anything about this mansion guarding spirit steel. If my cultivation doesn't become stronger, I will never be able to control the mansion guarding spirit steel. Then I will never be able to find the method to achieve eternal life. If when my lifespan ends, my cultivation still can't improve, won't I become a pitiful thing that starves to death while guarding a golden mountain? Second brother, I only thought of this when I saw this Yaoshan Immortal Mansion. Since we have an immortal mansion here, then the ruins where Sakura and the others came from must also have an immortal mansion. And in our Jianghu, the qi of heaven and earth is gradually recovering. Spiritual herbs and other things are very scarce, so it's not enough to support my cultivation. And in the ruins, I think it's just like what Senior Yu Mingxin said. There's a real cultivation world and a real immortal mansion. What you said is right. But when father and mother are here, don't travel far. This is an ancient rule. Mother is very worried when you leave the Guozhuang house. Moreover, you want to use the teleportation formation to go to some ruins? Zhang Xiaohu mentioned Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei who were in the immortal mansion. Hearing her mother and father being mentioned, Zhang Xiaohua was silent for a while. Then she said with a slightly hoarse voice, It's because I'm afraid that mother and father will be worried that I didn't let them come. Actually, second brother, the reason I left this place to go to the illusory ruins is also because of mother and father. Zhang Xiaohu frowned. Do you know? Second brother, when grandmother left, my heart was in so much pain. I wanted to reach out and hold her back, but she still left with me. No one could hold her back. Even if I were 100 times more powerful than I am now, I still wouldn't be able to hold grandmother's eyes as she passed away. Didn't you hear what Di Shitian said? In the cultivation world, there are elixirs that can make one live forever. Even if a mother and father don't cultivate and can't live forever, if I can find an elixir that can make them live forever, then I can also keep mother and father by our side. After seeing the separation of life and death, I really don't want to let the family by my side leave me. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the sky, her tone full of determination. But Xiaohua, how long will you leave? Chang'e asked with concern. If mother and father ask, what should we say? Who knows how long it will be? Maybe a few days, maybe a few years. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the strange array and said blankly, What's on the other side of the transmission array, what's it like? For so many years, no one has come here, and no one has gone there. Everything is unknown. Alas, if father and mother ask, just say that I'm in seclusion. Hee, second brother and second sister-in-law, don't worry. I've already used all of my divine sense and left a divine sense imprint here. When I find an elixir or a cultivation method, I'll come back immediately. And, even if I can't find it, I'll come back in time. It won't be too long. Then he turned to look at Nie Qianyu and said with a smile, Nie Qianyu, while I'm gone, the Beidou school will be in your hands. Although you're the eldest senior sister, you're not as experienced as Yen. If you have any questions, ask her. Also, the Beidou school won't be involved in the matters of the Jianghu. Leave it all to the Misty school. Right, Xiaohua, speaking of which, I still have to ask. Last year, You promised the Misty School that you'd help 3 of my disciples enter the path of immortality every year. But this year, none of the 3 people entered the path of immortality. If you find any elixir or spiritual herbs in the ruins, don't forget the Misty School. Jianghu thought of something and quickly said. Hee, I thought second brother wouldn't mention this. Xianxia said with a smile, I did agree to the cooperation on behalf of the Beidou School, but entering the path of immortality requires luck and resources. My Beidou School has a spirit gathering array that can provide certain conditions for entering the path of immortality. However, this isn't the only condition for entering the path of immortality. Their aptitude isn't enough, and my Peiyuan pill isn't enough. They stayed in the spirit gathering array for 50 days and still couldn't sense the chi of heaven and earth. How could they enter the path of immortality? If 50 days isn't enough, then 100 days. Zhang Xiaohu gritted his teeth and said. Zhang Xiaohua laughed. You're really shameless. Other people pass on the incense cult's inheritance for 18 days, but your disciple stayed there for 50 days. You still have the nerve to say that. Sigh. Let's not talk about your Misty School's disciples. If it weren't for the Peiyuan pill, even my disciples wouldn't be able to sense the chi of heaven and earth so easily. That's right, this Peiyuan pill is still very important. Zhang Xiaohu took the opportunity to say, my Misty School can't provide the spiritual herbs needed to refine the Peiyuan pill. This time you can go out and take a look. Also, bring some seeds back. After my Misty School plants them, I'll let you refine the Peiyuan pill. I know, second brother. This is also one of the reasons why I went out. The chi of heaven and earth here is too scarce. If there aren't enough spiritual herbs, it would be really difficult to enter the path of immortality. Sigh, after talking for so long, I still don't know if this transmission array can be used. Zhang Xiaohua stepped forward. There must be difficult conditions to activate it. Otherwise, Di Shirtian would have left long ago. Master. Ji Xiaohua, who hadn't spoken until now, opened her mouth. What's the matter? Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua called out, Xiaohua very smoothly. Master, be careful. If there's anything wrong over there, come back immediately. Ji Xiaohua said with concern. And Master knows. Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. The 9 grooves on the transmission array were quite big, about the size of 2 fists. Zhang Xiaohua looked at it, stretched out her hand, and took out the primordial stones that she usually used for cultivation. Then, she took out a few pieces from the crouching ox stone and placed them in the 9 grooves. Then, she took out a jade slip, released her divine sense and carefully looked at it. She closed her eyes and pondered for a long time. Then, she turned her head and waved her hand. Everyone, stand back. After everyone left, Zhang Xiaohua took a deep breath, and her 10 fingers continuously flicked out. One after another, simple to complicated spells were cast on the transmission array. As the spells were cast, the true chi in Zhang Xiaohua's body poured out into the transmission array. The 9 primordial stones on the transmission array gradually emitted a pale golden brilliance. This brilliance became bigger and brighter, and gradually connected along the transmission array. Buzz buzz, the entire transmission array flourished with brilliance. That brilliance suddenly rose from the ground and gathered together in the air, forming a spherical light screen. And in the light screen, the transmission array on the ground had completely disappeared. That's strange. Zhang Xiaohua was somewhat glad, but also somewhat confused. It seemed that this transmission array was very easy to start. Although it consumed a lot of true chi and a lot of divine sense, Sakra's cultivation was profound, which was far from what Zhang Xiaohua could reach. Since Zhang Xiaohua could start it, there was no reason why Sakra couldn't start it. Could it be these primordial stones? Zhang Xiaohua frowned, looking at the 9 primordial stones that had disappeared into the transmission array on the ground. Zhang Xiaohua, cultivated from the 1st level of qi refining to the 18th level of qi refining, didn't use many primordial stones, but this transmission array used 9 primordial stones at once, which was quite big. The jade slip said that all the primordial stones' primordial chi must be stimulated to make the transmission array play its greatest role. But it didn't mention anything about primordial stones? Zhang Xiaohua was very puzzled, but since he had already started the transmission array, he had no reason to doubt the method of this jade slip. After all, Sakra had left it for himself to use, And Sakura also didn't know that this jade slip would fall into Zhang Xiaohua's hands. With a wave of his hand, the transmission array's light screen revealed a small gap. Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense swept through, and seeing that there was no danger inside, he was about to walk in. "Be careful, Xiaohua," Zhang Xiaohua reminded. It's nothing, there seems to be nothing inside," Zhang Xiaohua said, and walked in. Sure enough, the transmission array's light screen was rapidly rotating, covering everything. It was different from the calmness seen from the outside. That buzzing sound was emitted from the rotating light screen. Along with the buzzing sound of the rotating light screen, there were gradually some colorful scattered lights on the light screen, and following that scattered light, Zhang Xiaohua seemed to be able to see some images inside, but when he looked again carefully, those images disappeared again. Little Black and Little Yellow jumped around on Zhang Xiaohua's shoulder, looking very excited. After nearly a year of intimacy, the two little things were no longer afraid of Zhang Xiaohua's aura. Looking at it with his naked eyes and divine sense for a while, Zhang Xiaohua walked out of the transmission array. "Can it be used?" Zhang Xiaohu asked with concern, and the others also looked at it without blinking. "I'm not sure, but it should be possible." Zhang Xiaohua shook his head slightly. "This can only be known after the last incantation is inserted." "Forget it. Let's not play. Xiaohua, let's just go home. Who knows if Di Shirtian did anything to this thing?" Zhang Xiaohu persuaded. Zhang Xiaohua didn't say anything, and reached his hand into the money bag, taking out the mansion-guarding spirit steel. This spirit steel was the same as a year ago, only there was a faint golden color on it. "Here, Byron, you take this spirit steel first." Zhang Byron was already sensible at this time, and very cleverly took it, opened his mouth and swallowed it. "Remember, this mansion-guarding spirit steel can only be used by you, no one else," Zhang Xiaohua said solemnly. "Yes, master." Zhang Byron nodded, but immediately asked, "But what if father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, and second uncle want it?" Don't worry, they won't ask you for it." Zhang Xiaohua patted his head and said, "Those who can enter and leave Yaoshan Immortal Mansion now can also enter and leave in the future. Those who can't enter and leave now can't enter and leave before I come back. If you don't know who to let in, you can ask your father and mother first. If your father and mother don't know, then ask your second uncle. However, you have to remember, you are a disciple of Beidou School, not a disciple of Misty School." Saying this, Zhang Xiaohua glanced at Zhang Xiaohu. "That can't be right, Xiaohua. Can I still covet your Beidou School?" Zhang Xiaohu sweated profusely. "Of course you won't, but you can't guarantee your subordinates," Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. "All right, I've been defeated by you." Zhang Xiaohu also shook his head. "Actually, it's not a big deal. I'm just giving you detailed instructions. Maybe I'll go take a look, find nothing, and come back immediately." Zhang Xiaohua smiled and comforted Zhang Xiaohu's hurt heart. "Think about it, what else have you not told us?" Zhang Xiaohua looked around and asked. "Senior brother sect master, actually, eternal life isn't that important. Even the elixirs for immortality for the elders aren't that important. What they want is for the juniors to stay by their side." Nie Chenyu's tears of parting slowly flowed out. She had an extremely bad premonition, so she tried to persuade them to stay again. "Sigh, although the elders think this way, as a junior, I still hope to do as much as possible. Although a short parting is sad, it will be exchanged for a longer reunion. For this reunion, parting is worth it," Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. "Take care, senior brother." Zhang Pinger's tears also swayed in her eyes. She knew that although Zhang Xiaohua said it well, if they didn't find any elixirs, they might not be able to come back. Moreover, there was an unknown place over there. How could she not be worried? Practice well. In fact, I'm also exploring myself. I hope that when I come back, you'll all be at the peak of the qi refining realm. Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and looked at everyone deeply. Then she turned and walked into the transmission array. "Be careful, Xiaohua. Come back early. Father and mother are waiting for you." Chang'e and Chen Chen also reminded her. "Well, I will. You should also be careful. If anything happens to the Misty Peak, just go to Yaoshan." Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. Byron will open the door for you. Well, I'm leaving. Second brother, take them up the stairs and go to the lake. Zhang Xiaohua stood in front of the teleportation formation's light screen, holding the great wisdom sword in his hand. Little Black and Little Yellow jumped on his shoulders. Finally, he waved his hand, and then with a hand seal, the light screen closed. Zhang Xiaohua stood in the transmission array and waited for a moment. She felt that everyone had gone out. Then she took a deep breath and used the last incantation. She firmly remembered what was written in the jade slip. She sent all the qi in her body into the incantation and stimulated the qi of heaven and earth from the 9 primordial stones. Boom! As Zhang Xiaohua cast his spell, there was a loud rumbling sound. Then the light screen in the teleportation formation spun even faster than before, increasing its speed by an infinite amount. Buzz! Zhang Xiaohua heard a huge vibration and the transmission array suddenly stopped. Then, a huge pressure came from all around. This pressure was incomparably huge. It was something that Zhang Xiaohua had never encountered before. When the pressure pressed on her body, Zhang Xiaohua only felt a roar in her ears and her vision turned black. She actually fainted. This is Sakra's trap. Zhang Xiaohua's only thought before she fainted. After Zhang Xiaohua fainted, a bright light flashed. Zhang Xiaohua's figure and the 2 little things on her shoulders who also fainted, along with the great wisdom sword in her hand, suddenly disappeared. Poor Zhang Xiaohua, what Sakra recorded in the jade slip was of course correct. However, the transmission array, especially the long-distance transmission array in this dense forest, had a huge pressure during transmission. This kind of pressure could only be resisted by those with profound cultivation. Otherwise, they could only use some specially refined talisman. For a cultivator like Zhang Xiaohua who was only at the qi refining stage, if she didn't use a talisman and directly use the transmission array, she wouldn't be crushed into a meat patty on the spot and only fainted. It was still convenient for Zhang Xiaohua. However, at the same time when Zhang Xiaohua's figure disappeared, a strange change suddenly occurred. The brilliance that should have disappeared didn't disappear. Instead, it became even more resplendent. All the brilliance poured in from the place where Zhang Xiaohua disappeared. Immediately after, the entire transmission array shook violently. In a flash, an incomparably brilliant light flashed, followed by a loud thunderclap. The entire transmission array was instantly shattered into pieces. And the brilliance that shrouded the entire bottom of the lake also dissipated. That violent explosion shook the scalding lake water into the air. With a hoo sound, the monster that was still leisurely cruising in the lake immediately flew into the air and looked at the lake's surface with astonishment. Everyone at the lakeside was originally nervous as they kept staring at the spherical light screen of the transmission array at the bottom of the lake. Everyone first saw the brilliance flash at the bottom of the lake, revealing the empty transmission array. They thought that Zhang Xiaohua had been successfully transmitted away, but when the brilliance appeared again, they felt that something was wrong. Now that they saw the brilliance and the explosion, as well as the lake water splashing everywhere, they all knew that something was wrong. Ignoring the scalding lake water, they all rushed forward together. Xiaohua, Zhang Xiaohu even used the ethereal steps and flashed across the lake water. He saw the ruins at the bottom of the lake after the explosion, but he didn't see any trace of Zhang Xiaohua. This is bad. Just now, I clearly saw Xiaohua being transmitted away. There was nothing in the transmission array, and then there was an explosion. Could it be that something went wrong after Xiaohua was transmitted away? Then, will something happen to Xiaohua? Jianghu also asked from the side. How would I know? Zhang Xiaohu smiled bitterly. I hope that Xiaohua has already left. But, gang leader Zhang, this transmission array has already been destroyed. My sect leader senior brother. How can he come back again? Nye Qianyu was attentive and had already thought of this. Her eyes were filled with anxiety. Ayo, isn't that right? Zhang Xiaohu slapped his forehead and shouted. I forgot that this transmission array seems to be the only transmission array from the ruins to here. This array has been destroyed. How can Xiaohua come back again? How can I explain this to father and mother? This must be that Sakra's conspiracy again. Zhang Pinger gritted her teeth and said. Everyone nodded their heads when they were sad. Poor Sakra, he was wronged by everyone again this time. This long-distance transmission array naturally had to activate all the vitality of the supreme-grade primordial stones. But how could the primordial stones in Zhang Xiaohua's purse be ordinary supreme-grade primordial stones? Those were the primordial stones that accompanied the bracelet. The amount of vitality of heaven and earth in them was simply immeasurable. Zhang Xiaohua didn't know this and only released the vitality of the 9 pieces of primordial stones. How could the transmission array withstand it? Just at this moment, Zhang Byron suddenly raised his head and looked at the sky where the snowflakes came from with his dark eyes. "Second uncle, look!" Zhang Byron's eyes were filled with fear. He hurriedly shouted and his little hand also pointed to the sky. "What's wrong?" Zhang Xiaohu's mind was still unsettled. He looked up at the sky, only to see that in the sky, the snowflakes were coming towards them, blocking everyone's line of sight. The misty sky was densely covered with red clouds, and they couldn't see anything clearly. Nothing. Not only Zhang Xiaohu was puzzled, but everyone also had the same thought. But just when everyone was puzzled, a bright brilliance was born from the sky. After a few flashes, it expanded, and the golden brilliance expanded rapidly. In just a few breaths, the entire sky was covered with golden rays. Not only everyone's faces were golden, even the falling snowflakes were inlaid with golden edges. There was a loud bang, followed by the sizzling sound of lightning. Amidst the lightning, there was a rumbling sound of thunder. The lightning and thunder struck the golden ball of light in the sky one after another. Boom! In a few seconds, the golden ball of light suddenly shrank. When it shrank to the height of a person, it solidified again. The center of the ball of light gradually dimmed and gradually became transparent. Not long after, it formed a rotating passage in the middle of the ball of light. Zhang Xiaohu rubbed his eyes. When he looked again, another golden speck of light flashed from the end of the passage and flew towards them. The golden speck of light fell into everyone's eyes, reflecting a sense of confusion. But in Zhang Byron's eyes, it was full of fear. "Second uncle, run!" Zhang Byron shouted and reached out to grab Zhang Xiaohu's sleeve, trying to pull Zhang Xiaohu away. "What's wrong? Byron, can you see what this is?" Zhang Xiaohu was shocked and couldn't help but ask. However, just as he asked this question, the golden spot of light had already passed through the seemingly long and deep golden passageway and flew into the snowy world. At this time, everyone could see clearly that this speck of light was a golden human figure. As for the face, the body was covered by the golden flashing light, so they couldn't see it at all. The golden human figure stopped in the air and paused for a moment. An overwhelming pressure spread out in all directions. Zhang Xiaohu and the others who were close to this figure immediately felt a sense of fear, a sense of obedience, a sense of worship, and a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts. Everyone couldn't help but take a few steps forward. Their eyes looked at the sky as if it was a god, as if it was a supreme existence that ruled over everything. Then, the golden human figure raised its hand to the sky. No one saw anything, but in the sky, a ripple visible to the naked eye appeared. This ripple rippled and spread across the entire sky. And wherever this ripple went, the red clouds in the sky disappeared bit by bit. The falling snow also melted piece by piece. Not long after, the entire sky was clear and a bright red sun hung in the east. Zhang Xiaohu and the others were completely dumbfounded. Wasn't this the legendary Immortal? Just as everyone was puzzled and frightened, the golden human figure seemed to have noticed the dense forest and the people in the dense forest. In the blink of an eye, the golden human figure disappeared from the sky and appeared above Zhang Xiaohu and the others. Zhang Xiaohu was shocked. Ignoring the innate fear in his heart, he took half a step forward and stretched out his hand to shield everyone behind him. Seeing this, the golden human figure stood steadily, as if the people in front of it were ants. "You. Who are you? You. What do you want?" Zhang Xiaohu asked in a trembling voice. The golden human figure didn't speak at all, and didn't move at all. The golden light on the human figure gradually dimmed. As the golden light disappeared, the person's appearance was revealed. "Ah? You." Not only Zhang Xiaohu, but even Chang'e, Nie Chenyu, and the others were shocked and in disbelief. Chapter 12:26. At the center of the Dawn Rain continent, there was a place with beautiful scenery. It was precisely a continuous range of mountains and a dense forest. In this place that was like a paradise, there had been countless stories and legends of immortals and ghosts for thousands of years. Unfortunately, this seemingly empty and picturesque place had an extremely tacky name: Yellow Flower Ridge. Yellow Flower Ridge, although it sounded tacky, it couldn't hide the fact that it was famous because of immortals. In the vast low-lying area between the mountains and plains of Yellow Flower Ridge, there was a thick white fog that couldn't be dispersed by the wind. It blocked the path of ordinary people who went up the mountain in search of immortals, so people didn't know the truth behind the white fog. But this mysterious fog cut off the path of ordinary people's feet, but it couldn't cut off the path in their hearts. Therefore, stories about mountains, rivers, immortals, and demons were passed down one after another, generation after generation. The more they were passed down, the more mysterious they became. The stories in the mouths of ordinary people were mostly made up to express their beautiful wishes. But what the villagers near Yellow Flower Ridge didn't know was that in Yellow Flower Ridge, there really was a real cultivation sect. The name of this cultivation sect was the opposite of the tacky name of Yellow Flower Ridge. Not only was it mysterious, but it was also puzzling. This name was Xianxia. There was no way to verify how Xianxia got its name. Even the 36th generation head of Xianxia, Xiao Yuehong, had flipped through all the ancient records in the sect out of boredom, but couldn't find a single word about it. As for why Xiao Yuehong was so bored, perhaps one could understand the reason just by looking at Xiao Yuehong now. It was afternoon, and the sun had already moved to the southwest. Xiao Yuehong was on a high mountain in Xianxua's Yellow Flower Ridge. He wasn't practicing any martial arts. Instead, he was squinting his eyes and lying on his back on a small boat-shaped magic tool. The magic tool floated in the air above the high mountain. As the sun moved farther away, it gradually changed its angle and position so that Xiao Yuehong's entire body could be completely bathed in the warm sunlight. Since the sect leader of a cultivation sect had so much free time, it wouldn't be strange for him to rummage through chests and cabinets to find the origin of his sect's name. Xiao Yuehong, who was basking in the sun, suddenly opened his eyes. He tilted his head slightly and glanced at the mountain peak to the west. He smacked his lips and muttered with a very helpless expression, "Hey, hi, this child. Use magic power. Although you're very stupid, you're still a first-layer aura refining cultivator. If you can use magic power, then use magic power. Why use strength?" Just as he was mumbling to himself, a loud rumbling sound came from the west side of the mountain. It seemed to be the sound of boulders crashing into each other. Fortunately, Yellow Flower Ridge has my mountain-protecting Grand Array. Otherwise, who wouldn't know that there's someone on the mountain with you causing trouble every day? Sigh, isn't it just opening up a medicinal field? Is it worth such a big commotion? Xiao Yuehong turned over, letting the sun shine on him more fully. Just as he was about to close his eyes, they suddenly flashed again. He looked to the east and said curiously, "Strange. How come it's not night yet? How come the three of them are already back?" The child Xiao Yuehong spoke of was Xianxia, a boy who was responsible for planting medicinal herbs, refining pills, and all the miscellaneous tasks of the sect. This boy was about 18 years old, and his name was Xiao Hua. Xiao Yuehong picked up Xiao Hua outside Yellow Flower Ridge 3 years ago. At that time, he was unconscious and seemed to be on the verge of death. Xiao Yuehong examined him for a long time, but he couldn't find where he was injured. There was an extremely deep scar on his left palm, and his body was smooth, like silk. Moreover, Xiao Yuehong didn't know if he was suffering from some serious illness. Since he couldn't like him, he could only bring him to Yellow Flower Ridge. The strange thing was that Xiao Yuehong didn't do anything. After a day and a night, Xiao Hua woke up on his own. However, after waking up, Xiao Hua forgot who he was, where he came from, where he was going, etc. He completely forgot everything that he should know. Xiao Yuehong originally wanted to send Xiao Hua down the mountain, but seeing that Xiao Hua was very strong and also knew some farm work, and that Xianxia still lacked a disciple to do odd jobs, Xiao Yuehong kept him. Because Xiao Hua didn't know his name, Xiao Yuehong gave him the name Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua had been with Xianxia for 3 years. At first, Xiao Yuehong was still wary and secretly paid attention to him, afraid that he was a spy sent by other sections. However, after half a year of observation, there were no clues at all. Xiao Yuehong was originally lazy, so he didn't investigate further. Half a year later, Xiao Yuehong began to let Xiao Hua do odd jobs while he began to take over the matters of the medicine garden and the alchemy room. These things all required spiritual power, so Xiao Yuehong began to consider accepting Xiao Hua as his disciple. However, Xiao Hua's aptitude. Xiao Yuehong didn't know if it was poor or outstanding. Xiao Hua had only been taught the first layer of Shang Huaming's secret cultivation method by Xiao Yuehong for the first time, and his meridians and lower dantian had the first strand of true qi. At that time, Xiao Yuehong was pleasantly surprised, thinking that he had picked up a treasure for no reason. He almost went to Shang Huaming's ancestral hall to worship the ancestors and kowtowed to thank them for being above the ninth heaven. However, there was a rule in the cultivation world of the Xiaoyu continent. The third layer of qi refining was the dividing line. Before the third layer of qi refining, one was an apprentice disciple of the sect. Only after passing the third layer of qi refining could one be officially accepted into the sect and be counted as an official disciple of the sect. Therefore, Xiao Yuehong restrained the ecstasy in his heart and increased the effort of cultivating Xiao Hua. He wanted to raise Xiao Hua's cultivation to the third layer of qi refining as soon as possible and bring him to the ancestral hall to worship and officially accept him as Shang Huaming's disciple. However, the development of the situation later exceeded Xiao Yuehong's expectations. Xiao Hua. His cultivation had actually remained at the first layer of qi refining. No matter what spirit pills he took, no matter what secret cultivation method Xiao Yuehong used, Xiao Hua's magic power constantly increased, but Shang Huaming's cultivation method just didn't increase. Xiao Yuehong worked hard for another year. The amount of energy and pills he spent on Xiao Hua was almost the same as the other disciples, but he still didn't see any results. Only then did he have no choice but to stop. After all, the same amount of energy was enough to let the other disciples, and that is, the three of them in Xiao Yuehong's words, advance to the 10th layer of qi refining. Therefore, Xiao Hua could only be regarded as Shang Huaming's half a disciple. If this half a disciple came from other sects, wouldn't he have long been reduced to a handyman, or directly crippled of his cultivation and driven out of the sect? However, Xiao Hua was personally picked up by Xiao Yuehong. Although he was a bit older, his name was also given by Xiao Yuehong. Furthermore, Xiao Yuehong was the one who taught Xiao Hua from knowing nothing to the first level of qi refining. Xiao Yuehong couldn't bear to banish Xiao Hua. Although he didn't receive the treatment of an official disciple, he didn't treat him unfairly in the slightest. And, needless to say, Xiao Hua was very diligent. The medicine garden, the pill room, and the sex chores were all taken care of by him. He did more than 10 people combined. The 3 disciples Xiao Yuehong spoke of were the eldest disciple Gong Mingwei, the second disciple Zhang Qingxiao, and Xiao Yuehong's daughter Xiao Xianrui. Today was the day when the various cultivation sects in the country of Xi changed their markets. Xiao Yuehong was too lazy to go himself, so he sent his 3 disciples to carry Yellow Flower Ridge's unique spirit herbs and Shang Huaming's own medicinal pills to trade with other sects in exchange for medicinal pills, spirit stones, and other items used by cultivators for cultivation. Gong Mingwei and the others rarely went down the mountain. The changing market was a rare opportunity, and it was also a good opportunity to meet other cultivators. In the past, when they went out, they would only come back at night. Now that they returned so early, it was no wonder that Xiao Yuehong found it strange. Far away from Yellow Flower Ridge, outside the white fog that never dissipated, 3 streaks of light landed on the ground. 2 men and a woman flashed out. On the left were 2 men, one tall and one short, about 27 or 28 years old. They supported each other. The tall man wore a navy blue Taoist robe. His face was pale and thin, and his eyes were bright and thick eyebrows made him look extremely energetic. However, at this moment, there were dark circles under his eyes. There was a slanted scar on his left cheek, and the corner of his mouth was also broken. Looking at his body, his navy blue Taoist robe had a large cut at the waist by a sharp weapon, revealing his white inner robe. There were also dark red bloodstains on the inner robe, indicating that he had suffered external injuries. This man was Shang Huaming's eldest disciple, Gong Mingwei. The slightly shorter man had a round face and a slightly plump body. He had small eyes on his face, faint eyebrows, and a few small dots scattered on his right cheek. Needless to say, this person was Shang Huaming's second disciple, Zhang Qingxiao. At this moment, he looked even more miserable than Gong Mingwei, who was supporting him. Zhang Qingxiao's hairbun had been shaved off, and his hair was loose and messy, covering his face. His lips were swollen, and there were some dried blood stains on his nose. His arms and legs were stained with blood. What's more, his left leg was slightly raised, and when Gong Mingwei occasionally touched it, a pained expression appeared on his face. When he fell from the sky and landed on the ground, his body tilted and he almost couldn't stand. The woman on the right was Xiao Yuehong's beloved daughter, Xiao Xianrui. She was also about 25 or 26 years old, with almond-shaped eyes, willow-shaped eyebrows, and a tall nose. She was quite pretty, and although there was some dust on her body, there were no bloodstains or injuries. However, at this moment, Xiao Xianrui's face was deathly pale, and there was anger and unyielding in her eyes. Her teeth were tightly clenched on her lips, and it seemed that she hadn't calmed down yet. Seeing that the short and fat Zhang Qingxiao couldn't stand steadily, the woman quickly supported him and whispered, "Second senior brother, are you okay?" When Zhang Qingxiao heard this, a sweet smile appeared on his face, and he said, I'm fine. It's just a superficial wound." When Gong Mingwei heard this, he snorted coldly. The smile on Zhang Qingxiao's face immediately disappeared, and he revealed a pitiful look. Gong Mingwei said, "What do you mean by fine? You were bleeding the whole way. If you hadn't exchanged the Wu Xian pill for something useless, your external wound would have been healed long ago." Chapter 12:27. Looking at Xiao Xianrui, who was blushing and embarrassed, Zhang Qingxiao squeezed out a smile and said, "But, senior brother, that little thing is really fun. When you use your magic power, a 5-colored phoenix appears. Even I am enchanted by it. Not to mention junior sister, I think it's worth exchanging those Wu Tsong pills for that thing. And Wu Tsong pills. We can ask Master to refine more. If we miss this trade, we don't know if we'll get another chance. It's all my fault, senior brother. I shouldn't have been so stubborn and insisted on buying the Phoenix illusion." Xiao Xianrui said with a frown. "Sigh, I didn't blame you. If we hadn't met the disciples of the 10,000 Poisons sect, we wouldn't have needed the Wu Tsong pills. I'm just saying that if we had kept 2 pills, we wouldn't have had to be so restrained." But that scholar saw that junior sister liked it and insisted on increasing the price. Zhang Qingxiao argued. He said it was some ancient divine object, and the idiot from the 100 Herbs sect also followed. "Forget it, don't talk about it. Let's explain it to Master." Gong Mingwei was too lazy to say anything more. "Junior sister, open the array." Hearing the words idiot from the 100 Herbs sect, Xiao Xianrui's eyes flashed. "Yes, senior brother." Xiao Xianrui came to her senses. She quickly took out a round bead from her bosom and held it in her hand. The bead immediately emitted a dim brilliance. Xiao Xianrui looked at the bead, turned around and whispered, "There is no one following us. There is no one within 1,000 feet. Gong Mingwei nodded slightly. Immediately, Xiao Xianrui patted her waist and took out a yellow talisman from a small gray bag. She closed her eyes for a moment and the yellow talisman emitted a faint brilliance. Then, Xiao Xianrui patted her hand and stuck the yellow talisman on the white fog. A magical scene appeared. The place where the yellow talisman was stuck, the white fog retreated, revealing a passage about the height of a person in the middle. Seeing this, Xiao Xianrui nodded to Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao and went in first. Behind her, Gong Mingwei supported the limping Zhang Qingxiao and also went in. As soon as the 3 of them went in, the slender yellow talisman behind them flashed and turned into ashes. The white fog around the passage gathered again and returned to its original state. The 3 of them entered the passage of white fog. After walking for a while, their eyes suddenly opened up. It was a quiet place with birds chirping. The 3 of them seemed to be familiar with this place, so they didn't pay any attention to it. Xiao Xianrui nimbly patted the small bag on her waist, and another 3 yellow talismans appeared in her hand. Xiao Xianrui took one for herself and handed the other 2 to Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao. Then, the 3 of them moved their fingers and pointed at the yellow talismans. The yellow talismans emitted a faint light. The 3 of them patted the yellow talismans on their waists and the yellow talismans suddenly disappeared.
Then, the three of them looked at each other and moved slightly. Unexpectedly, they rose into the air and flew towards the mountain peak in the distance like immortals. Ha ha ha, why are you back so early? Before the three of them flew to the top of Yellow Flower Ridge, they heard Xiao Yuehong's laughter. Is it because my elixirs are very popular? They've been swept clean by other sects. Unfortunately, before his laughter fell, they heard him cry out in surprise. You! How did you get injured? Following the voice, a blue brilliance streaked across the sky. It was the boat-shaped celestial artifact that Xiao Yuehong was standing on. At this moment, Xiao Yuehong no longer looked as lazy as before. Instead, he stood firmly on the celestial artifact. As the mountain breeze blew past, his clothes fluttered and his slightly white hair was blown up. Although he looked to be around 60 years old, he still had the demeanor of a young man. Father! Xiao Xianrui heard Xiao Yuehong's voice and couldn't bear it anymore. Before she spoke, her eyes turned red. She flew to Xiao Yuehong's side and held his arm with her hand. Master! The two senior brothers next to her had a different reaction from their junior sister. Their faces were red and their eyes were apologetic and uneasy. Why didn't you treat your serious injuries earlier? Xiao Yuehong glared at them and didn't ask why they were injured. Instead, he scolded them. Can't you just take a few Wuxia pills? Father, our Wuxia pills are gone. Xiao Xianrui whispered. They've all been replaced? Xiao Yuehong was stunned, and then his eyes lit up. Was it because others fought over the Wuxia pills? That's why they injured you? Hee hee, I didn't expect my pills to be so popular. Xiao Yuehong said to himself. I have to work harder and refine more. Father! Xiao Xianrui muttered and stopped Xiao Yuehong from sighing with self-satisfaction. She said, quickly take out the Wuxia pills. Second senior brother has already persevered all the way. Oh okay. Xiao Yuehong patted his waist and took out a yellow talisman. He said, Xiao Hua, quickly take out master's Wuxia pills. Then, he patted it with his hand and the yellow talisman turned into a ray of light and flew to the west. Oh, father! Xiao Xianrui saw this and hurriedly stopped him. But was it too late? Looking at the yellow talisman flying away, she said, Father, are there no more Wuxia pills in the storage bag? Why did you call Xiao Hua with a sound transmission talisman? Xiao Yuehong said in a bad mood, I'm fine. Why would I put those things in the storage bag? Xiao Xianrui's face was a little panicked. She looked at her two senior brothers and saw the strange expression on their faces. Xiao Yuehong didn't notice. He only waved his sleeve and the four of them landed on the hill. He stretched out his hand and said, Second brother, let master take a look at your injuries. Xiao Yuehong looked at Zhang Qingxiao's injuries and his face turned cold. Just as he was about to ask, he saw a young man about 17 or 18 years old flying over from the west. The young man's face was slightly round, his nose was high, his eyes were long and narrow, and his eyebrows were thin and thick. They slanted into his temples like swords. His eyes were bright and full of spirit, but there was a hint of confusion in them. The young man's flying speed was even faster than Gong Mingwei's group. When he got closer, he looked at Gong Mingwei's group in surprise. He bowed and said, Greetings, Sect Master. Greetings, Senior Martial Brothers and Senior Martial Sister. When Xiao Xianrui saw this person approaching, she quickly winked as if she was greeting or hinting at something. But before the young man could react, Xiao Yuehong frowned and said, Xiao Hua, where are the Wu Yao pills that Master asked you to take? This. Xiao Hua was stunned for a moment, then immediately understood Xiao Xianrui's hint. He frowned slightly, then said without hesitation, reporting to Sect Master, yesterday evening, Senior Sister Xiao came to the pill room with the Sect Master's token in her hand, and took away all the Wuxia pills in the pill room. Sighed, not only Xiao Xianrui, but Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao also sighed in their hearts. It's over. After hearing Xiao Hua's words, Xiao Yuehong's face sank. He didn't doubt Xiao Hua's words at all. He turned and scolded, Xiao Rui, Master asked you to take 60% of the Wu Yao pills to E-City. You actually dared to take all of them? Hearing Xiao Yuehong call himself Master instead of Father, Xiao Xianrui knew something was wrong. She quickly put on a smile and said,
Father, you misunderstood your daughter's meaning. Heh? You disobeyed sect master's orders and took away the Wu Yao pills from the sect without permission. Do you have any reasonable reason? Xiao Yuehong sneered. This. Father, you also know that your Wu Tsong pill has always been very popular in Yi City. Every time, there's always a shortage of supply. Every time, your daughter and my 2 senior brothers have to be urged by others. Isn't your daughter thinking that instead of letting others look on with envy and wait for the next Yi City, why not let them have their fill this time? Do you know of our Shang Huaming's generosity? Heh, this is possible. Xiao Yuehong nodded with a smile, but then looked at Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao's injuries and frowned. The Wu Yao pills were exchanged for spirit stones and other pills. What about your injuries? If Master wants to refine pills, I'm afraid it will take several days. It's okay. Hearing that her father didn't want to pursue the matter, Xiao Xianrui was overjoyed. She glanced at Zhang Qingxiao and said, Second senior brother's physique has always been strong. This kind of small injury will be healed in a few days. Zhang Qingxiao licked a trace of blood from the corner of her mouth and also smiled. She said with an indescribable meaning, Little junior sister is right. Senior martial brother Su, little brother remembers. Little brother's room still has the Wu Tsong pill bestowed by the sect master, but, looking at your physique, it seems you don't need it. Xiao Hua suddenly thought of something and patted his forehead with a smile. You! Zhang Qingxiao heard Xiao Hua's words and almost vomited blood. She stretched out her hand and looked at Xiao Yuehong from the side, but didn't dare to say anything. If you have the Wu Yao pill, why don't you hurry up and take it? Didn't you see that second senior brother, who usually treats you like a treasure, is injured like this? Xiao Xianrui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She glared at Xiao Hua and scolded, Second senior brother really dotes on you. Yes, senior sister. I'll go right away. Xiao Hua smiled, turned around and jumped into the air. His figure flew to the west. That's right, little Rui. How many spirit stones did we exchange for the Wu Yao pill? Or did we exchange it for some spiritual grass? Take it out and let father see? Xiao Yuehong was somewhat impatient to know how much people liked the Wu Yao pill he refined. Unexpectedly, Xiao Xianrui was still looking at the direction Xiao Hua flew in. Looking at the sky that had already disappeared, she nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, Father, did you see that? This Xiao Hua's flying technique is becoming more and more skillful. Using the same flying talisman, he, a first-layer chi refining cultivator, can actually fly faster than us 10th-layer chi refining cultivators. Xiao Yuehong's train of thought was also led astray by his daughter. Looking into the distance, he stroked a few strands of his beard and nodded. That's right. Xiao Hua indeed has some strange innate talent, especially when using flying talismans. Alas, it's a pity. Even if he has some innate talent, what's the use? If his chi refining realm can't be increased, he can't do anything at all. He can only use flying talismans, but he can't cultivate true flying techniques. Tell me, Xiao Hua, didn't eat any less medicinal pills than you did back then. How could you have already reached the 4th layer of aura refining in 3 years? His aptitude is clearly rare. So how could he remain at the 1st layer of aura refining? Chapter 12:28. But, Master, Xiao Hua's magic power is also increasing. It didn't stop because his realm stagnated. Gong Mingwei interrupted. What's the use of that? Xiao Yuehong finally scolded in front of the 3 disciples. Cultivation isn't just about magic power. Realm and comprehension are the most important. As long as your realm increases, your magic power will naturally increase. If your realm doesn't increase, your magic power will have an end sooner or later. No matter how high Xiao Hua's magic power is, it's impossible for him to be a match for you 10th layer chi refining cultivators. Master, you can try to let Xiao Hua take some medicinal pills. Or give him some Peiyuan pill to see if his magic power can stop increasing, or if he can reach the 2nd layer of chi refining. Zhang Qingxiao thought for a long time and finally interrupted. You're missing a string in your brain, Xiao Yuehong said unhappily. If Master had enough qi refining medicinal pills or Peiyuan pill, it would be enough to raise your cultivation by another layer. You would also have a chance to cultivate to the peak of the late stage of qi refining. Then, you could help me cultivate a foundation establishment cultivator and let my Shang Huaming's legacy continue. Why would Master spend it on Xiao Hua for no reason? Wouldn't that be a waste of spirit stones for no reason? Oh right. How many spirit stones did you exchange for this time? This. Hearing his words provoke Xiao Yuehong's thoughts about spirit stones again, Zhang Qingxiao's face had already turned pale. If it weren't for Gong Mingwei supporting him, he would have fainted immediately. Gong Mingwei and Xiao Xianrui also looked at each other in dismay. At this time, Xiao Hua had already flown to the western mountain peak and landed. In front of him was a small courtyard. Behind the courtyard was Shang Huaming's herb garden. There were more than 10 mu of various spiritual herbs planted inside. Xiao Hua was in charge of Shang Huaming's herb garden and usually lived in this courtyard. However, he didn't step into the courtyard. Instead, he walked to the door of the courtyard and looked back. He reached out his left hand and touched the side of his ear. A jade bottle appeared out of thin air in his left hand, and beside the bottle, there was a small section of grass. Where did the weeds come from? Xiao Hua stared blankly for a moment before tossing the weeds to the ground with a shake of his hand. He didn't even examine it carefully as he removed the cork of the bottle and brought it under his nose to sniff it. He nodded and said, Fortunately, I still have a bottle of parasol pills hidden here. Otherwise, second senior brother, you would have to suffer for a few more days." As he spoke, he flew up again and headed straight for Xiao Yuehong, who was in jailing. The way Xiao Hua took out the jade bottle was very similar to the way Xiao Xianrui took out the yellow talisman from her storage bag. It's just that he didn't have any storage bag on him. Who knows where he took out the jade bottle from? When Xiao Huafei arrived beside Xiao Yuehong and the other master and disciples, the atmosphere was no longer as relaxed as it was when he left. Xiao Yuehong's face was ashen as he coldly looked at Xiao Xianrui and asked, "Little Rui, do you know? It's easy to tell a lie, but you have to tell 100 lies to cover up this lie. Do you think that all these lies won't be discovered one day?" "Father." Hearing this, Xiao Xianrui's face also changed greatly. With a plop sound, she knelt down on the ground and reached out to take out a group of colorful brilliants from her bosom. A lifelike peacock spread its wings in the colorful brilliants and was about to fly. Between the wings of the peacock, all kinds of colors were spread out, which was really beautiful and attractive to the eyes. It was the peacock illusion that Xiao Xianrui had exchanged all her parasol pills for in this transaction. The beauty of the peacock illusion made Xiao Yuehong's eyes absent-minded for a moment. After a moment, he woke up and pointed with his finger, coldly saying, "I, Shang Huaming, exchanged all my parasol pills for this little thing?" "Yes. Father, I know I was wrong." Xiao Xianrui lowered her head and cried, "Humph! This thing. No matter how beautiful it is, it's just an ornament. Those parasol pills. How many spirit stones, magic tools, and talismans could they be exchanged for? Even some talismans could be exchanged. You actually exchanged them for this." The more Xiao Yuehong spoke, the angrier he became. He stretched out his hand and the peacock illusion flew into his palm. Xiao Yuehong glanced at his daughter's panicked expression and clenched his hand, about to crush it. Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao were shocked. Ignoring their injuries, they also knelt in front of Xiao Yuehong and shouted, "Master, have mercy!" "Master, junior sister, she has never had anything that she likes since she was a child. After going to East City so many times, it's rare for her to see something that she likes. Can you be merciful and please don't destroy it?" Zhang Qingxiao stuttered. "Yes, master. Junior sister has never had anything fun since she was young. It's the first time she's met something she likes so much. It's also the first time she's asked a disciple to help her buy it. You have never bought anything for her. Why don't you take it as a gift from master to junior sister for her 26th birthday?" Gong Mingwei's eyes lit up and he hurriedly persuaded, "You." Hearing his two disciples' words, Xiao Yuehong's heart ached. Shang Huaming was a small sect and had always been poor. Xiao Xianrui had never had a mother's love since she was young. As a man, he was careless and had never exchanged anything fun for his daughter. This was the first time his daughter had asked for it. How could he destroy his daughter's hope? Looking at Xiao Xianrui's gaze that made his heart ache, how could Xiao Yuehong do it? Sect Master. The Wu Cheng pills are here. Xiao Hua flew close and handed over the jade bottle. Looking at that beautiful peacock illusion, he smacked his lips and said, "This is over a dozen bottles of parasol pills. In a moment, you've lost both the pills and the goods. You're here to anger me too?" Xiao Yuehong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He flew up and kicked Xiao Hua's butt, but his strength was too light. If it weren't for the fact that there were no flies in Yellow Flower Ridge, even if there were flies lying on Xiao Hua's butt, he wouldn't have kicked a fly's hair. Seeing Xiao Yuehong like this, the three people kneeling on the ground all breathed a sigh of relief. "Forget it. Get up." Xiao Yuehong waved his hand and sighed. "It's also father's fault for being careless. I never thought that a girl like you would have such a hobby. Just take this thing as your birthday gift." "Thank you, father," Xiao Xianrui replied with a smile. Handing over the peacock fantasy in his hand, Xiao Yuehong smiled and said, "Little Rui, in the future, if there's anything you can tell father, don't say any meaningless lies. Oh right, after half a year, don't ask father what he wants." "Daughter doesn't dare," Xiao Xianrui said shyly. Daughter wanted to find time to tell father, but unexpectedly. "Well, this time, you all used the Wu Yao pill to exchange for the peacock fantasy. Master won't punish you." Without waiting for Xiao Yuehong to finish, Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao both bowed and said, "Thank you, Master, for your magnanimity." "Don't, Master hasn't finished yet." Xiao Yuehong waved his hand. "Master won't punish you for exchanging things, but you all lied in front of Master. That's against the sect rules. So Master punishes you to go to the solitary Staff Peak's tranquil heart cave to reflect on your mistakes for 100 days. Sect Master. Xiao Hua wanted to plead, but looking at Xiao Yuehong's face, he could only swallow the rest of his words. "Okay, second brother, you can take the Wu Yao pill." Xiao Yuehong threw the jade bottle that Xiao Hua handed over to Zhang Qingxiao and said to Gong Mingwei, "Eldest brother, tell me, how did your injuries come about? Could it be that you were too competitive with others?" "Disciple doesn't dare." Gong Mingwei glanced at Xiao Xianrui, then turned his head and said respectfully to Xiao Yuehong, "Disciple will remember Master's teachings. Cultivation is to pursue the heavenly Tao and break through the self. Magic competition is only a small Tao, not worthy of the grand hall." "Well said, but what about your injuries?" Xiao Yuehong sneered. "Father, don't blame eldest senior brother, and don't blame second senior brother. They're all disciples of the 10,000 Poisons sect." Xiao Xianrui argued. They said that our Shang Huaming is a 1,000-year foundation establishment, a 10,000-year qi refinement. Forever can only be the Dawn Rain continent, a low-level cultivation sect. That's it. Xiao Yuehong's reaction was not as calm as Xiao Xianrui thought. "That's it. Father, the 10,000 Poisons sect is only a small sect. How can they compare to my Shang Huaming? That's why." Eldest senior brother and second senior brother were anxious and tried to reason with them, and unconsciously fought. "Do you think the 10,000 Poisons sect is wrong?" Xiao Yuehong said neither quickly nor slowly. "Since the 10,000 Poisons sect is a small sect, then, how did you lose? How did you get seriously injured? What about the disciples of the 10,000 Poisons sect?" "Father, the 10,000 Poisons sect has several 7th-level qi refinement disciples, and one 11th-level qi refinement disciple. How can the three of us be a match for them?" Xiao Xianrui argued. "A small sect like the 10,000 Poisons sect has several 9th-level qi refinement disciples, and one 11th-level qi refinement disciple. They're much more powerful than my famous Shang Huaming and the other 10th-level qi refinement disciples. Tell me, in the end, who's the small sect and who's the famous one?" Xiao Yuehong asked calmly. "But my Shang Huaming's secret cultivation method can be cultivated to the golden core stage. Among my seniors, there were many golden core cultivators. And the cultivation method of the 10,000 Poisons sect can only be cultivated to the late stage of foundation establishment. Their seniors didn't even have a single golden core cultivator. How can their 10,000 poisons sect compare to my Xianxia? Gong Mingwei argued with all his might. Alas, my disciples, you're not wrong. My Dawn Rain continent is extremely lacking in cultivation methods. The majority of sects only have one cultivation method, and these cultivation methods are divided into various grades and grades. The low-grade ones can only be cultivated to the foundation establishment and golden core stages. The mid-grade ones can be cultivated to the nascent soul and deity transformation stages. Only the high-grade ones can be cultivated to the tribulation transcendent stage and the great ascension stage. There are even more sects that have cultivation methods that can only be cultivated to the high levels of qi refinement. My Xianxia, on the other hand, received the legacy of my ancestor and passed down a low-grade cultivation method that can allow my disciples to cultivate to the golden core stage. In this aspect, the 10,000 poisons sect really can't compare to my Xianxia. Chapter 12:29. But I do have the cultivation method, but the disciples have become a problem. I, Xianxia, am a small sect. Without absolute strength, I can't compete with the big sections. I can't compete with the big sects for disciples. Compared to other small sects, Xianxia not only has stricter standards for selecting disciples, but we also lack spiritual herbs and medicinal pills. Compared to the 10,000 poisons sect, which is rich and has many disciples, Xianxia really can't compare. Then he glanced at Gong Mingwei and the other two, then at Xiaohua and said kindly, although Yellow Flower Ridge is a spiritual vein, it's still far from being comparable to a real heavenly abode. I've been working hard to plant spiritual herbs and refine medicinal pills these years. But before I found Xiaohua, I didn't have any achievements. After Xiaohua came, I focused on taking care of the herb garden. Only then did I have the time to study medicinal pills. I have some gains, but to take out some Peiyuan pill to help you improve your magic power and realm like the 10,000 poison sect, I still can't do it. Disciples are unworthy. Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao were ashamed. Xiao Yuehong also let them take care of the herb garden, but they only wanted to practice the cultivation method and didn't care about other things. Of course, they made a mess, and in the end, Xiao Yuehong had to do it himself. There's nothing wrong with concentrating on cultivating the cultivation method. Everyone has their own fate. Even if we let Xiaohua cultivate the cultivation method, he won't be able to cultivate it. It's better to let him take care of the medicine garden. Xiao Yuehong waved his hand. Yes, sect master is right. Xiaohua knew Xiao Yuehong's painstaking efforts. He also practiced Xianxua's cultivation method, and knew the problems he encountered in practicing it. He nodded in agreement. However, Xiaohua asked again, by the way, sect master, what kind of spiritual herbs are needed to refine the Peiyuan pill? Do we have them in our garden? Oh, the main ingredient of the Peiyuan pill is the absorption fruit. Although it's rare, I have it in my herb garden. That's strange. That absorption fruit. Disciple has seen it before. Although it's not much, it's not little. Why doesn't sect master refine the Peiyuan pill? Xiaohua asked. You only know one thing but not the other, Xiaohua. Xiao Yuehong stroked his beard and said with a smile, alchemy is an extremely important subject. It's as important as cultivating a mental cultivation method. If you don't have profound attainments, you definitely won't be able to successfully refine medicinal pills. I have some attainments in the field of alchemy. That's why the Wu Tsong pill I concoct is so effective that it's only available in E-City. On the other hand, to concoct the Peiyuan pill, not only does one require profound alchemy skills, one also needs an even older assimilation fruit. Ah! Xiaohua came to a realization and asked again. Then, I'm afraid that the absorption fruits in our garden have been around for 10 years. Isn't that enough? How can 10 years be enough? I'm afraid that even 20 or 30 years won't be enough. Xiao Yuehong smiled bitterly. That long? Xiaohua exclaimed. Then who can grow it? Pitiful child. The spirit grasses in our medicine garden are only used to refine ordinary medicinal pills. The spirit grasses used to refine the Peiyuan pill are all specially planted by large sects using special methods or special places. Or, they're harvested from deep mountains and marshes where no one has ever stepped foot on them. The absorption fruits used to refine the Peiyuan pill aren't too demanding. However, The exquisite grass used to refine the foundation establishment pill requires a medicinal age of over 300 years. Xiao Hua was flabbergasted. 300 years. It seems that the age of the 5 people in front of him added together is longer than that. This exquisite grass really isn't something that ordinary people can grow. Therefore, there's an old saying in the cultivation world of the Dawn Rain continent. Qi refining is easy, foundation establishment is hard. That's how it is. Xiao Yuehong sighed and said, from the late stage of qi refining to the early stage of foundation establishment, the amount of true qi required isn't something that can be provided by ordinary refining of spiritual energy. One can only rely on external objects to greatly increase the amount of true qi in the meridians in the body. Only then can one push one's cultivation to break through the shackles of the realm. There are many kinds of external objects like this. Taking the foundation establishment pill is the most common and most effective kind. Master. The exquisite grass used to refine the foundation establishment pill requires a medicinal age of 300 years. It's really hard to find. Is it possible that there are other things? After taking the parasol pill, Zhang Qingxiao was full of energy. Hearing her master talk about foundation establishment, her heart itched even more and she couldn't help but ask. Sigh, the exquisite grass is a spiritual grass of heaven and earth. It absorbs the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and grows for hundreds of years. It contains the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within the grass and then adds other spiritual grasses to refine the foundation establishment pill. The medicinal properties of the foundation establishment pill are mild and the spiritual energy entering the body is also slow. It's precisely walking the path of righteousness. For us cultivators, it's the most orthodox method and there won't be any special side effects. As for other external objects, for example, directly taking rare and aged spiritual grasses, due to the lack of other supplementary herbs, there might be some toxicity. It might also harm the meridians. Just like ordinary people, if they eat cooked food, of course it's delicious. If they eat it raw, it might not taste good and they might even have diarrhea. Ha ha ha, Xiao Yuehong's explanation was very profound and simple, making Zhang Qingxiao almost laugh out loud. Sect Master. You said to eat vegetables then. Is there anyone who eats meat? Xiao Hua on the side also asked with a smile. This. Xiao Yuehong muttered, looked at Xiao Hua and said, according to the sect's ancient records, a long time ago, there was. Ah? There's really people who eat meat? How do they eat it? The 4 people's eyes lit up and looked at Xiao Yuehong in surprise. It's said that in this world, people aren't the only ones who can cultivate. There are many creatures, such as wild beasts, trees, and so on. They all have their own cultivation methods. Since spiritual grasses can be refined into pills, those wild beasts can naturally also. Ah? Xiao Hua listened and his mouth opened wide, as if he thought of something. What's wrong? Xiao Yuehong said curiously. This is also recorded in the sect's ancient records. Master has never seen it with his own eyes. Oh, nothing, nothing. Although there was some surprise and excitement in Xiao Hua's eyes, he still didn't say anything. It's said that when some people build their foundation, they use the inner cores of demonic beasts to cultivate. They can also obtain a large amount of spiritual qi from the inner cores, which can be used to advance their cultivation. However, this spiritual qi is refined by demonic beasts, which is different from what we humans refine. It's very easy for problems to arise. Therefore, over time it gradually disappeared. Speaking up to here, Xiao Yuehong looked around Yellow Flower Ridge in disappointment and said, unfortunately, in my Yellow Flower Ridge, there are only trees and trees. I don't see any rare things. Even if Master wants to get a demonic beast's inner core to advance your cultivation, it's impossible. Xiao Hua listened and a strange expression appeared on his face. Okay, Master won't say any more. You're only at the 10th layer of qi refining. There's still a long way to go to the 12th layer of qi refining. Once you reach the peak of qi refining, Master will tell you everything in detail. If I tell you now, it'll become a burden. Xiao Yuehong waved his hand and said, you wait. Pack up and immediately go to the Peaceful Heart Cave on Lone Staff Peak. Xiao Hua, you also go. Supervise them. Yes, Sect Master. Xiao Hua bowed and saluted. Xiao Yuehong turned around and was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something. He frowned and asked, "Also, just now you said that there were several 9th-layer Qi refining cultivators and one 11th-layer Qi refining cultivator in the 10,000 poison sect. Only 3 10th-layer Qi refining cultivators. How did you escape so easily?" This. When Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao heard this, their faces changed color. Xiao Xianrui lowered her head slightly, a trace of red appearing on her face. "Master, we're easy? Can't you see how injured your disciple is?" Zhang Qingxiao braced herself and said, "Less nonsense. Hurry up and say it. Otherwise, you'll have to reflect on your mistakes for 200 days. Xiao Yuehong sneered. "Master. It's like this." Gong Mingwei saw that Master was really angry again, so he glanced at Xiao Xianrui and said, "When we were buying the Peacock Fantasy for Junior Sister, we met the young master of the 100 Herbs sect, Jiang Fan. It was because he was against us that the price of the Peacock Fantasy was raised so high. Tell me the important things." Xiao Yuehong glared at him and scolded. "Yes, master." Actually, when we were fighting against 100 Poison sect, we were at a disadvantage. But, for some reason, Jiang Fan actually led his disciples to help us. That's why we didn't suffer too much. The 100 Herbs sect? Jiang Jiantong? I've only met him a few times, and we don't have a deep friendship. Xiao Yuehong was puzzled, but he didn't notice Xiao Xianrui's blush, nor did he notice the unnatural expressions on Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao's faces. "Forget it, Shang Huaming, owe the 100 Herbs sect a favor. When the time is right, I'll pay them back." Xiao Yuehong waved his hand. Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao sighed softly, but Xiao Xianrui looked disappointed. The Lone Staff Peak was a relatively remote mountain in the north of Yellow Flower Ridge. There weren't any nearby peaks, and the climate here was different from the other peaks. Not only was the wind very strong, but the temperature was also much lower. If Gong Mingwei and the other two weren't Qi practitioners of the 10th level, they would have easily reached the top of the Lone Staff Peak. Even so, when the three of them entered the tranquil cave of the Lone Staff Peak, they were surprised by the coldness and the cold wind that blew in from time to time. This. Xiao Xianrui circulated her vital energy through her meridians to force out the bone-chilling cold. She sighed and said, "Is this a place for humans to stay? It's so hard. Junior sister, we have to stay here for 100 days. Zhang Qingxiao screamed. "Senior brothers, the sect leader sent you here. I'm afraid there's a deeper meaning behind it." Xiao Hua followed the three of them into the tranquil cave. He had never heard of this place before, and had never been here before. He couldn't help but shrink back and smile. "Xiao Hua, it's easy for you to say that. It's not like you're the one who's reflecting on your mistakes in the tranquil cave. Why don't we switch places? Let's see if I can make such sarcastic remarks," Zhang Qingxiao said unhappily. "Little junior brother," Xiao Xianrui said with a smile. "If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it on Qidian.com." Chapter 1230. Io, senior sister. Please don't call me that. Sect master has never accepted me into the sect. It's not appropriate for you to call me that. Xiao Hua felt that something was wrong and immediately denied it. Father hasn't chased you down the mountain for so long. Naturally, he has the intention of accepting you into the sect. You just need to cultivate slowly. If 10 years isn't enough, 20 years and you still can't reach the 3rd level of Qi refining? So, you are destined to be my junior brother. Xiao Xianrui didn't agree. She understood that if it wasn't for the strange custom of Xiaoyu continent, Xiao Hua would have already been accepted into the sect. Forget it, senior sister. Don't say anything useless. You just say what you want to say. Xiao Hua bitterly smiled. It's nothing. However, it's so cold here. Senior sister and your 2 senior brothers. Don't freeze. What pills do you have? Can you lend us a few? Don't. Senior sister. Sect master hasn't given any orders. I don't dare to casually agree. Xiao Hua shook his head like a rattle. Stingy, Xiao Xianrui stomped her feet and stole a glance at Zhang Qingxiao. My back hurts. Little junior brother.
Don't you have the slightest bit of benevolence? Seeing your senior brother who usually dotes on you suffer like this? Xianxia immediately cried out in pain. Hee, second senior brother, don't complain. I won't give you anything. Xiaohua righteously said. Humph, if you don't want to give, then don't give. How about, you try the cold yourself? Zhang Qingxiao said angrily.
Fine, aren't I right here?
Xiaohua said with a smile. At worst, I won't go back tonight. I'll just stay outside the cave with you. Haha, a gentleman keeps his word. Junior brother, let's see if you'll stay here tonight. Zhang Qingxiao felt a bit better after dragging Xiaohua along. While the three were talking, Gong Mingwei had already looked around the tranquil cave. He walked to the entrance and said, This tranquil cave has many depressions deep into the stone wall. People can sit in them. Junior brother, junior sister, choose one. We'll cultivate here for the next 100 days. Yes, senior brother. The two nodded and then rolled their eyes at Xiaohua before walking away. Xiaohua, eldest senior brother, what are your orders? Gong Mingwei took out a small silk pouch from his bosom and handed it over, saying, There are more than 10 exquisite grass seeds in here. Ah? Exquisite grass? Xiao Huagang had heard about the building foundation pill before. Of course, he was very sensitive and cried out in surprise. Oh, that's right. Eldest senior brother, how could I have forgotten about the seed of the exquisite grass? When Zhang Qingxiao heard this from afar, she immediately slapped her forehead and shouted, No wonder when Master mentioned the exquisite grass earlier, I felt that it sounded familiar. Junior brother, go quickly. Take this bag of seeds and plead with father. Xiao Xianrui was also pleasantly surprised. Oh, Xiaohua took the bag with a smile and asked, How should I report this to the sect head? We also inadvertently obtained it. A mysterious destitute cultivator took this bag and exchanged it with quite a few people, but they all refused to exchange it with him. Junior apprentice sister pitied him, so she exchanged it with 3 parasol pills. Gong Mingwei spoke the truth. When Xiaohua heard this he frowned, but still said, Senior brother, wait a moment. After a while, Xiaohua returned. How is it, master? Zhang Qingxiao couldn't wait to ask. The sect head said that this thing is trash. The exquisite grass isn't grown with seeds. It's not even worth a single parasol pill. Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh. Ah, Xiao Xianrui cried. We were still cheated. That person said that this was a good thing, but no one recognized it. Looking at the silk pouch that Xiaohua handed over, Gong Mingwei said expressionlessly, Take it. Then, he turned around and found a place to sit cross-legged. He used Shang Huaming's secret heart technique and began to cultivate in peace. Seeing their eldest senior brother like this, Zhang Qingxiao and Xiao Xianrui also calmed down. They each found a place to sit and regulated their breathing. Xiaohua looked at the silk pouch in his hand, and the corner of his mouth revealed a bitter smile. Gong Mingwei and the other two. This was not the first time they had been fooled. Not only was he already used to it, even Xiao Yuehong, upon hearing about the seed of the exquisite grass, did not even open the silk pouch, and directly dismissed Xiaohua with a single sentence. But, if he didn't use the seed to grow the exquisite grass, then, wouldn't it take 300 years? Who would do that? In any case, Xiaohua knew that he definitely wouldn't do it. Seeing that Gong Mingwei and the other two were cultivating, Xiaohua didn't want to disturb them. He tossed the silk pouch in his hand, caught it, and tossed it out again. Then, he turned around and walked out of the tranquil cave. Outside the tranquil cave, the cold wind blew. Xiaohua shrunk his neck and secretly regretted it. Why is the wind on Lone Staff Peak so strong? It's not as good as Shihua Peak's weather. Why did I casually promise senior sister to accompany them here? I didn't say anything wrong. Looking around, Xiaohua slowly walked towards the peak. The tranquil cave wasn't far from the peak. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Xiaohua arrived at the peak of Lone Staff Peak. The wind on the peak was even stronger. However, standing at such a high place gave him a relaxed and happy feeling. The Lone Staff Peak was completely bare. Xiaohua casually found a huge mountain rock and sat down. Beside the mountain rock, there were a few stalks of wild grass stubbornly standing upright, swaying left and right in the wind.
Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and grabbed a stalk of wild grass, holding it in his mouth. While biting the grass with his teeth, he looked around. This was also his first time coming to the Lone Staff Peak, so the surrounding scenery was still very unfamiliar. Lone Staff Peak was the tallest peak in Yellow Flower Ridge. There weren't many trees on the peak. Most of them were strange rocks. At the bottom of the peak was a wide mountain stream. The gurgling water flowed into a huge cold pond at the side. There's also a pond here? Look at this flowing water. Isn't it connected to the pond at Xihua Peak? Xiao Hua saw the pond and was delighted. He threw the stalk of grass in his hand and was about to fly down. However, the grass flew with the wind and landed on his face. Just as Xiao Hua was about to impatiently push it away, his mind suddenly lit up. Just now, when I took out the Wu Yao pill, why was there grass in my hand? Xiao Hua recalled the scene when he took out the Wu Yao pill. I don't seem to have put any grass in my head. Thinking this, Xiao Hua sat down again and closed his eyes. When he closed his eyes, in his mind, appeared a space of several tens of zhang. This was Xiao Hua's biggest secret. A secret that he had never told anyone. Where this space came from and how it was formed, Xiao Hua didn't know at all. In any case, after he was saved by Xiao Yuehong, he discovered that there was an empty space in his mind. He could put things in this space and also take things out of it. It wasn't much different from the storage pouch that Xiao Xianrui used. Of course, what if there was a difference? He was the only one who could perceive this space. No one else knew about it. Also, this space had a ground and the ground also had soil. It was different from the soft space of the storage pouch. At this moment, Xiao Hua closed his eyes and looked into the space in his mind. Other than some messy little things, there were a few sparse weeds growing on the ground. Beside the weeds, there were a few withered weeds and a few tools used for weeding. Oh, I understand. I'm afraid. When I was weeding in the medicinal field this morning, when I put the tools into the space, I also put in some weeds. Xiao Hua nodded slightly. Ever since he knew that he could put things in his mind, he casually threw some tools, jade bottles and other things that he needed to carry with him. In any case, the space of several tens of zhang was enough for him to store everything. That's not right. The weeds. I accidentally put them in my quilt this morning. How could they have grown so tall? Just as Xiao Hua wanted to shift his attention away from the weeds, he saw that the weeds were thriving and had a question. Could it be that they were brought in a few days ago? Immediately, Xiao Hua thought again. Since weeds can grow in this space, then, what about spiritual herbs? Xiao Hua naturally turned his thoughts to the silk bag in his hand. Xiao Hua thought and raised his left hand to his ear. The silk bag in his hand disappeared. Immediately after, the silk bag appeared on the ground in his mind. Anyway, this is the seed of the exquisite grass. I'll plant it first. Sect Master only said that it was useless. I failed and no one will know. That's not right. Spiritual herbs are different from weeds. They need to be specially planted. I can't go in myself. How can I plant it? Xiao Hua looked at the silk bag and was worried. He could take things out of the space, but he couldn't plant spiritual herbs in it. That's right. How could I forget? Doesn't Sect Master have a puppet that can plant spiritual herbs? Although he didn't use it for a long time, I can still use it to try. Since I'm going to plant it, why don't I plant some of the spiritual herbs in Cherishing Flower Peak's medicine garden here and see what effect it has? Xiao Hua grabbed a flying talisman from the space beside his ear. He slapped it on his body and flew toward Mindless Worship Peak. Mindless Worship Peak was the main peak of Yellow Flower Ridge. It was also where Shang Huaming's sect was located. Puppets that could plant spiritual herbs were extremely rare in the Dawn Rain continent. Xiao Yuehong had spent a lot of effort to exchange for it from someone else by chance. Therefore, after Shang Huaming had Xiao Hua as a servant to plant spiritual herbs, Xiao Yuehong treasured the puppet very much. When he heard that Xiao Hua wanted to use a puppet, he didn't find it strange. He looked Xiao Hua up and down and said, "Is there anything in the medicine garden that you can't handle? Why did you think of a puppet?" Reporting to Sect Master. Long ago on the road, Xiao Hua had already come up with an excuse. Senior brother and senior sister are reflecting in the tranquil cave. When I accompanied them just now, I already told them that I'll accompany them every day. With more people. Wouldn't it be more lively? Moreover, I can also take the opportunity to have senior brother give me pointers on my cultivation. Lively with more people. Xiao Yuehong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 1231. Master told them to calm down so that they could cultivate. How could there be any liveliness or loneliness? However, they are usually busy cultivating and never go to the medicinal garden, so it's not good for them to guide your cultivation. This is a very good opportunity. Apart from cultivating, they can also give you some pointers. Xiaohua, you should also work hard, okay? Hurry up and cultivate to the third layer of qi refining. You're only half a disciple. When can you truly become my disciple? Hee, aren't I working hard right now? Xiaohua laughed. All right, go. In these 100 days, let the puppet do more work. You should cultivate more. Xiao Yuehong patted his storage pouch and took out a yellow talisman and a fist-sized spirit stone. Take this yellow talisman to the secret room. You've used the puppet before, so you know how to control it. Take this spirit stone and place it on the puppet's back. It shouldn't be a problem for you to use it for 100 days. Sect Master. The puppet also uses spirit stones? Xiaohua reached out and took it. He asked curiously. Child, if you don't use the spirit stones, how can the puppet move? How can it grow spirit herbs? Xiao Yuehong laughed and scolded. Xiaohua smiled and didn't say anything. After bidding farewell to Xiao Yuehong, he came to the back mountain of Mingli Peak. He arrived in front of a smooth and shiny stone wall and stuck the yellow talisman on it. A faint cyan light flashed, and a cave about the height of a person appeared on the stone wall. Xiaohua walked in without hesitation. At the end of the cave was Shang Huaming's secret room. Inside was Shang Huaming's collection of the past generations. Xiaohua looked around and saw a puppet about the same height as a person in the corner of the secret room. The puppet was lying diagonally on the ground, its back leaning against the stone wall and its head slightly drooping. Xiaohua walked over and turned the puppet over. Sure enough, there was a fist-sized hole on the puppet's back. Xiaohua took out the spirit stone and placed it in the hole. A faint white light emitted from the spirit stone, and the puppet's body, made of an unknown material, flashed slightly. The hole on the puppet's back disappeared, and the puppet stood up from the ground like a person. The puppet's limbs were the same as a person's, but the carving on its head was relatively rough. The facial features on its face weren't too similar, especially its two eyes. Although they showed a bit of spirit after the spirit stone was placed, most of them were abnormally empty. Xiaohua looked at it carefully, then reached out and stroked the puppet's arm. With a thought, the puppet disappeared and was absorbed into his mind. This puppet really doesn't have any life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to store it in this space. When Xiaohua discovered the mysterious space in his mind, he also tried to absorb some small living animals into it. The result was, without exception, failure. Not even an ant could be absorbed into it. Coming out of the secret room, Xiaohua took off the yellow talisman, and the passage immediately disappeared, returning to its original smooth stone wall. The yellow talisman also flashed, ignited, and automatically turned into ashes. Xiaohua didn't need to report to Xiao Yuehong. His figure flew up and directly flew towards the Lone Staff Peak. In fact, according to Xiaohua's plan, he should go to the Cherishing Flower Peak now and transplant the various spirit grasses in the medicine garden into his space. But thinking about how the space needed to be tidied up by the puppet, he could only wait until the soil was tidied up before he could plant them. While flying towards the Lone Staff Peak, Xiaohua controlled the puppet. The situation in the Tranquil Heart Cave was the same as before. Xiaohua said a few words to Xiao Xianrui and the others, asked a few more questions, then turned around to go back. However, when his eyes fell on the cold pond at the foot of the mountain, he couldn't help but stare blankly. At this time, above the cold pond, water vapor was rising and smoke was curling up. It felt very strange. Xiaohua's figure landed on the edge of the cold pond, and a warm feeling greeted him. This. Xiaohua was even more surprised. Could it be that this is different from the cold pond of Cherishing Flower Peak? In the mountain stream of Cherishing Flower Peak, there was also a pond about the same size as this cold pond. The water inside was bone-chilling cold. Xiao Hua had once tried to put his hand into the water, and the coldness was like a knife that pierced his bones. Therefore, he very naturally thought that the water in this pond was also cold. However, when he placed his hand into the pond, the warmth of his hand made him pleasantly surprised. This pond water was indeed warm, completely different from the cold pond. Xiao Hua straightened his body, and without any hesitation, he took off his clothes. With a plop sound, he jumped into the pond water, and began to swim very carefreely. In the entire Yellow Flower Peak, there were only 5 of them, Shang Huaming and the others. There was no 6th person. Now that 3 of them were locked up in the Tranquil Heart Cave, who could still come and peek at him? After playing in the warm pond for a while, Xiao Hua lay on his back on the surface of the water. Above his head was the sky between the mountain peaks. The few dark clouds in the sky were blown away from time to time, but the wind in the sky was still not small. Thinking about the coldness of Lone Staff Peak and the hot spring in this pond, Xiao Hua couldn't help but sigh at the miraculous nature of creation. This pond is so warm, but it's very far from Cherishing Flower Peak. Little White is unlucky, and can only endure the cold in this cold pond. Xiao Hua couldn't help but think of Little White in the cold pond. Just as he was thinking, Xiao Hua suddenly felt his hair stand on end, as if he was being closely watched by some monster. He straightened up, but before he could stand firmly in the water, a white line shot out from the pond like lightning. Ah! Xiao Hua was shocked at first, but when that white line flew in front of his eyes, his face revealed a happy expression. He stretched out his arm and said with a smile, "Haha, Little White? Why did you also run over here?" A small white snake that was as thick as a chopstick and over 2 feet long flew in front of Xiao Hua. It coiled its soft body around Xiao Hua's outstretched arm and raised its oval-shaped snake head. Its slender, scarlet tongue rapidly extended and contracted. Its 2 eyes seemed to understand Xiao Hua's words as it stared straight at Xiao Hua. This Little White turned out to be a little white snake. Speaking of this little white snake, it was also extremely fated with Xiao Hua. It was the first creature Xiao Hua saw after he woke up, and it was even a bit earlier than Xiao Yuehong who saved him. That day, Xiao Yuehong brought Xiao Hua back to Yellow Flower Ridge. Because Xiao Hua didn't have any injuries and Xiao Yuehong was also helpless, he could only put Xiao Hua in a room. After Xiao Hua woke up a few days later, he didn't see anyone, so he followed the mountain path down Missing Worship Peak. Coincidentally, 2 days before Xiao Hua woke up, thunder rumbled in Yellow Flower Ridge and rain fell unceasingly. The gullies on Missing Worship Peak were filled with rainwater mixed with mud as they flowed down the mountain. Xiao Hua was careless and fell into the mountain stream, following the flow of the water into Cherishing Flower Peak's cold pond. Just as Xiao Hua was struggling to stand up from the cold pond, he saw the little white snake. At that time, the little white snake was already on the verge of death, almost without any vitality. It was like a little white rope that was rippling along the pond. Xiao Hua only thought that the little white snake was dead and didn't care. But, when the little white snake touched Xiao Hua's arm along with the waves, he was caught off guard and bit Xiao Hua's arm. Xiao Hua was naturally shocked. He reached out his hand and immediately grabbed the little white snake 7 inches, wanting to pinch it to death. But, just as Xiao Hua's hand was about to exert force, Xiao Hua unexpectedly discovered that he could understand the little white snake's eyes. It was a kind of pitiful, helpless, pleading expression. Following the corner of the little white snake's eyes, he could actually see teardrops falling. In an instant, Xiao Hua's heart softened. He looked at the place where the little white snake had bitten him. There were no signs of being poisoned. He only felt that his blood was being sucked into the little white snake's body. And his own body didn't have any abnormal reaction. Therefore, Xiao Hua stretched out his arm and allowed the little white snake to bite him. Speaking of which, it was also strange. After the little white snake sucked Xiao Hua's blood, in the time it took to drink a cup of tea, it seemed to be full of vigor and vitality. It let go of Xiao Hua's mouth and nodded very gratefully at him. Then, it drilled into the depths of the cold pond and disappeared. And there was only a small wound on Xiao Hua's arm. There wasn't any sign of being poisoned. At this time, Xiao Yuehong chased down from the mountain and pulled Xiao Hua out of the cold pond. Then, he brought him back to Minushi Peak. Later, Xiao Hua stayed at Yellow Flower Ridge and took care of the medicine garden at Cherishing Flower Peak. In his free time, he would also go to the cold pond at the foot of the mountain. Every time he came, the little white snake would also appear on time. It was like an old friend, accompanying Xiao Hua on the grass beside the cold pond. After a long time, one person and one snake became extremely familiar with each other. Xiao Hua then called the little white snake Little White. Chapter 1232. Little White was very intelligent. It seemed to be able to understand Xiao Hua's simple words. Even when Xiao Hua was bored and said some random things, Little White would frequently nod its head, very much like a qualified friend, patiently listening. Xiao Hua also felt strange in his heart. He once intentionally asked Xiao Yuehong if he knew that there was a psychic little white snake in the cold pond. Unfortunately, Xiao Yuehong thought for a long time and only shook his head. After a long time, he found some clues from Shang Huaming's ancient records. However, Xiao Yuehong told Xiao Hua that there might be a psychic python in Yellow Flower Ridge. It had lived longer than Shang Huaming. However, it was a huge python, a python that also cultivated. It wasn't the tiny little white snake that Xiao Hua spoke of. Of course, this was only a possibility. Shang Huaming hadn't seen that huge python for many generations. Xiao Hua heard this and didn't take it to heart. After all, there were only 5 people in Yellow Flower Ridge. Apart from Xiao Hua, the other 4 were all cultivators. Xiao Hua also cherished Little White, this playmate that wasn't a playmate. However, Xiao Hua had always seen Little White in the cold pond of Shihua Peak. He also didn't know that the pond of Lone Staff Peak was actually connected to the cold pond of Shihua Peak. Therefore, he didn't expect Little White to appear here. The little white snake coiled around Xiao Hua's arm and looked at Xiao Hua. Its small snake head slightly swayed, as if it was amusing Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua smiled and said, "The pond here is abnormally warm. You probably already knew. Why didn't you tell me? The pond of Shihua Peak is extremely cold. There's no way to play. Next time when you come, you have to call me." The little white snake obviously couldn't speak. Its tongue flickered, and Xiao Hua also treated it as if it understood. "Let's go, I'll jump down from there." Xiao Hua raised his head and looked at the col above the pond. Soon after, Xiao Hua slowly climbed to the col with the little white snake coiled around his arm. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to stand firmly on the mountain rock, Little White's body suddenly tensed up as if it felt something. It straightened its head and looked around vigilantly. However, when Xiao Hua straightened up and wanted to jump down from the mountain rock, nothing unusual happened. What Xiao Hua and Little White Snake didn't know was that, far away from them, a speck of light was flying towards them at a speed that was imperceptible to the naked eye. The light particles were extremely small and weak. Under the sunlight, they couldn't be seen. Moreover, the trajectory of the light particles was very strange. First, they flashed in the air for a moment, then disappeared into the void. When they reappeared again, they were already very far away from where they were before. Just as the light particles appeared in the distance, a bracelet-like thing suddenly appeared in the mysterious space in Xiao Hua's mind. The bracelet-like thing emitted a powerful fluctuation from Xiao Hua's mind and spread in all directions. The fluctuation was extremely fast, and it only took an instant for it to reach where the light particle was. The light particle was swept by the fluctuation and immediately trembled. It actually changed its direction and gradually shot towards Xiao Hua. "Haha, watch me." How could Xiao Hua know about the changes in his mind? He only laughed and jumped out from the mountain valley. He flipped a few times in the air and was about to fall into the pool. At this moment, the light particles were attracted by the fluctuation of the bracelet-like thing and, coincidentally, came out from the void behind Xiao Hua's head. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, it entered the back of his head and disappeared without a trace. The little white snake on Xiao Hua's arm didn't even have time to turn around. Everything had already happened. Immediately after, Xiao Hua's body fell into the pool with a plop. The light particles shot into the back of Xiao Hua's head and appeared in the center of the bracelet-like thing. They steadily stopped there and didn't move. The bracelet-like thing absorbed the light particles and immediately started to spin rapidly, emitting a brilliant brilliance. Xiao Hua, who was flying under the control of the bracelet-like thing, only felt that his eyes were filled with light. It was as if his entire body was immersed in the light. In his world, there was only light, a dazzling light. Apart from light, there was nothing else. Apart from being dazzling, this light also pierced his entire mind. Before he could think of anything else, Xiaohua fell into a coma. The little white snake followed Xiaohua into the pool and immediately fell from Xiaohua's arm and swam in the pool. The moment the little white snake landed on the surface of the pool, a strange thing happened. The little white snake instantly became incomparably huge. Its entire body was even bigger than a common water tank. At the same time, the little white snake also became extremely long. Its entire body coiled up and almost filled the entire pool. At this moment, the little white snake raised its head high. It didn't know what had happened to Xiaohua's body. It looked around vigilantly. Swish, 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 the little white snake flicked its tongue a few times and its body expanded once again. Huge golden scales gradually grew on its snow-white skin. Below its abdomen, there were 4 places where the phantom of claws gradually appeared. The strangest thing was that the little white snake's head also gradually changed. Horns grew on its head, its eyes became bigger, and its mouth became wider. It looked exactly like a dragon's head. Kacha kacha! A burst of heavenly thunder suddenly flashed in the air above the Lone Staff Peak. The air beside the Tranquil Heart Cave also gradually turned crimson. Hearing the sound of thunder, the little white snake's eyes were filled with fear. It slightly shook its gradually transforming dragon head and twisted its body. With a flash of brilliance, all the illusions disappeared. The little white snake returned to its previous appearance. The heavenly thunder in the air also disappeared. The crimson color in the air also seemed to have been blown away by the wind. At first, the entire space was filled with light. Soon after, Xiaohua's eyes were pitch black. That darkness was very absolute and very still. There wasn't the slightest bit of light and there wasn't the slightest bit of movement. He didn't know how much time had passed. In an instant, perhaps 10,000 years, perhaps even longer, in this darkness, at a point extremely far away or extremely near, there was a sudden change. First, it constantly vibrated, emitting a kind of mysterious fluctuation that instantly spread throughout the entire space. Then, that point turned from endless darkness to transparent. Then, it turned crimson, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, all the way to purple. Every color evolved into a kind of fluctuation that spread throughout the entire space. Finally, the purple color lasted for the longest time, and the fluctuation was also the most intense. After the purple color passed, the entire space stopped vibrating. It was only a moment of silence. All the colors just now appeared at that point, and the entire space was filled with the 7 kinds of fluctuations. At this moment, that point suddenly lit up. Unexpectedly, a ray of white light flashed from there. In an instant, the white light filled the entire space. At the same time, the chaotic fluctuations in the space also changed into an even more mysterious vibration. The vibration filled the entire space, as if the space was filled with white light. Xiaohua's thought suddenly flashed through the white light. The entire space immediately disappeared, and the white light also disappeared. He suddenly opened his eyes. First, a blank white light appeared in Xiaohua's eyes. Then, only then did his eyes reveal his pitch-black pupils. Looking at the long and narrow sky in the sky, as well as the clouds in the sky that were torn apart by the fierce wind, Xiaohua gradually came back to his senses. At this moment, he was floating on top of the pool. What happened? Xiaohua was greatly shocked. He rubbed his head and straightened up from the pool. The little white snake was still swimming in the pool beside him. Seeing Xiaohua wake up, it also intimately swam over, as if nothing had happened just now. What's going on? It's like I jumped down from the mountain rock, and everything before my eyes was bright. Then, I don't know anything? How long have I been unconscious? Just what happened? Xiaohua stepped on the water and looked around in astonishment. The pool was still steaming, and the little white snake was still coiling around his arm. Nothing had changed, as if nothing had happened. However, the scene produced by the light just now was deeply engraved in his mind. If nothing had happened, then where did this memory come from? Just as Xiaohua was looking around, trying to find some clues, a red brilliance suddenly flew down from the sky. That brilliance directly arrived in front of Xiaohua and steadily stopped in front of him. Xiaohua frowned. He reached out his hand and pinched it. A trace of magic power was transmitted over, and that crimson light broke with a poof. Xiao Yuehong's voice transmitted over. Xiao Hua, quickly come to the guest hall. Guest hall? Seeing the sound transmission talisman slowly disappear, Xiao Hua secretly said. It seems, this guest hall hasn't been opened yet? What kind of important guest came today? After receiving the sect master's order, Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. He didn't have time to look for the reason why he was unconscious. He hurriedly put on his clothes and went straight to the guest hall of Min Worship Peak. When he arrived in front of the guest hall, Xiao Yuehong was already wearing a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk in his hand, standing there majestically. Why didn't you change your clothes? Seeing Xiao Hua still dressed up, Xiao Yuehong frowned and said, Disciple was at Lone Staff Peak just now. After receiving the sect master's message, I immediately came here. I didn't have time to go back and change. Oh, what about the three of them? Are they still obedient? Xiao Yuehong's face slightly warmed as he asked casually. Yes, senior brother and senior sister are all diligent in cultivation. Presumably, after 100 days, their cultivation will definitely reach a higher level. AI, how can it be as easy as over there? How can I not know their cultivation? Without the help of external objects, foundation establishment is hopeless. Sect Master, do you need disciple to go back and change my clothes? Xiao Hua respectfully asked. No need, you are also not an official disciple. Dressing up like this can't be considered treating guests poorly. Xiao Yuehong said with a smile. Xiao Hua's eyes turned, and he asked curiously. Our Shanhuiming Peak has never had any guests. Who came today? Hee, won't you know when you get there? As Xiao Yuehong said this, he waved his big sleeve. His boat-shaped magic tool fell to the ground and instantly grew bigger. When he got on the flying boat, Xiao Hua also followed closely behind. With a whoosh, the flying boat flew out of the mountain and into the fog that never dispersed all year round. After flying to a spacious place at the foot of the mountain, Xiao Yuehong landed the flying boat. Xiao Hua looked around. This place was completely different from the surrounding mountains. Not to mention the picturesque trees planted in disorder, nor the corresponding brook, pavilion, and mountain scenery. Just by looking at the large open space paved with square bluestone and a few jade tables and stone stools on the ground, Xiao Hua knew that this was probably the place where Shan Huiming temporarily received guests. Sure enough, Xiao Yuehong walked down the flying boat and patted his waist. A palm-sized jade pendant appeared in his hand. He sent his magic power into the jade pendant, and the jade pendant immediately glowed with a dazzling brilliance. Seeing the brilliance of the jade pendant, Xiao Hua very naturally thought of the inexplicable white light that filled his eyes just now. Seeing the brilliance, Xiao Yuehong pointed his finger. The brilliance rose from the sky, circled in the air, and rushed into the fog outside the mountain. In an instant, a spacious passage appeared in the fog. Immediately, a clear voice sounded, Sect Master Xiao, long time no see. Following that voice, a flying boat came out of the fog passage. It flew not far in front of Xiao Yuehong and landed. 2 men and a woman walked out of the flying boat. Xiao Yuehong's face was full of smiles. He took a few steps forward and cupped his hands. Sect Master Jiang, it's been a long time since we last met. How are you? Hearing this, Xiao Hua somewhat understood and thought to himself, could it be? This is the 100 Herbs sect that senior apprentice sister mentioned a few days ago? What are they doing here? With this thought, he couldn't help but secretly size them up. Sect Master Jiang looked to be in his 40s. His skin was very good, and his hair was pitch black. Behind him was a young man dressed in a turquoise robe, holding a folding fan in his hand. His features were handsome, and he looked rather elegant. He should be the young sect master of 100 Herbs Gate, Jiang Fan. Next to Jiang Fan was a tall and slender woman. She was dressed in a light red robe. Her face was fair, and she had round eyes and a fine nose. Her hair was like the clouds, and there was an air of arrogance about her that was very threatening. Seeing Xiao Hua size her up, the woman's eyes slightly slanted. Seeing Xiao Hua's clothes, she already understood. She swept a glance at Xiao Hua, then looked at Xiao Yuehong. While Xiao Hua was sizing up the people from 100 Herbs Sect, Sect Master Zhang Zhentong also cupped his hands in return. thanks to Sect Master Zhao's good fortune, I've already extinguished the desire to win these past few years. I've only stayed in the sect to train the disciples and concentrate on the sect's affairs. I've rarely seen you old friends. A few days ago, when I heard my son talk about East City, I couldn't help but feel nostalgic. That's why I brought my son and daughter to see you old friends. As he spoke, he turned around and waved his hand, saying to Jiang Fan, Fander and come and greet Sect Master Xiao. Hearing this, Jiang Fan and Jiang stepped forward and bowed in greeting. Xiao Yuehong was bewildered, but he put on a smile on his face and said with a wave of his sleeve, Forget it, forget it. I haven't seen you for a long time. Sect Master Jiang's son and daughter are already so big. Haha, isn't that so? This old man has seen Sect Master Zhao's beloved daughter when she was young. She's already slim and elegant now. Jiang Jiantong said with a smile, Fander, give our gift to Sect Master Xiao. Yes, father. Jiang Fan nodded and patted the storage pouch at his waist. He took out a few jade bottles and handed them over with a smile. Sect Master Xiao, this is my sect's secret Peiyuan pill, the Snow Jade Pill. Please accept it as a token of my respect. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for it. Chapter 1233. This. Xiao Yuehong was shocked. He waved his hand and said, Sect Master Jiang, this gift is too precious. How can I accept it? Hee, Sect Master Xiao, you don't have to be so polite. My 100 Herbs sect is famous for its pills. Although these pills are precious, they aren't extremely rare in my 100 Herbs sect. I brought my children here to visit, so of course I can't treat them lightly. Seeing that he couldn't refuse, Xiao Yuehong gave Xiao Hua a look, and Xiao Hua stepped forward to receive it. Jiang Jiantong looked at Xiao Hua and smiled. Which disciple of Sect Master Xiao is this? Oh, this is my Shang Hua Ming's pill refinement boy. He's only at the first level of qi refinement and hasn't been accepted into the sect yet. Xiao Yuehong explained with a smile. Then, your sect's disciples? And your daughter? Jiang Jiantong asked curiously. Seeing Jiang Jiantong's question, Jiang Fan's face was filled with anticipation, and he pricked up his ears. Seeing Jiang Fan's expression, not to mention Xiao Yuehong, even Xiao Hua could see some clues. This guy. Could it be that he's here to see senior sister? Xiao Hua was secretly on guard. He knew that the two disciples of the sect, Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao, both had feelings for Xiao Xianrui. However, Xiao Xianrui's closeness to the two of them was average. It was hard to tell who was better. This matter was an open secret of the Deathflower Underworld sect. Thus, Jiang Fan's handsome appearance immediately became sanctimonious in Xiao Hua's eyes. Hee, I'm sure Sect Master Jiang knows that my daughter and disciple caused trouble in East City, so I punished them to reflect on their mistakes in the Tranquil Heart Cave. Xiao Yuehong also glanced at Jiang Fan, his expression unchanged as he said calmly. Sect Master Xiao, this is where you are wrong. I have also heard about the matter of your daughter and disciple from my son. Their performance should be praised with the word, good. Why did you punish them? Jiang Jiantong was quite moved. Hearing this, Xiao Yuehong smiled and didn't say anything. He only looked around and said with a smile, This place is simple and inconvenient for guests. Sect Master Jiang, please. As he spoke, he boarded the flying boat and turned to Xiao Hua, who followed behind him and said, Go to the courtyard and pick some fresh fruits to treat the guests. While you're at it, let your senior brothers and the others come out first. Yes, sect leader. Xiao Hua nodded and stood respectfully at the side. After Jiang Jiantong's group of 3 boarded his flying shuttle and flew off with Xiao Yuehong, he cast a flight talisman and directly headed towards the Tranquil Cave on Solitary Staff Peak. When the 3 people in the Tranquil Cave heard that sect leader Jiang of the 100 Herbs Gate and his 2 children had come to visit, they all had different reactions. There was a trace of joy on Xiao Xianrui's face at first, but when she saw the gloomy faces of the 2 senior brothers next to her, she immediately restrained herself, lowered her head obediently, and did not speak. Zhang Qingxiao waved her hand and shouted, I'm not going. I want to cultivate here. I can't be bothered to see them. Who knows what kind of intentions they have? Looking at Xiao Xianrui's face, Zhang Qingxiao felt a chill in her heart and her voice became lower and lower. Gong Mingwei bit his lips and also saw Xiao Xianrui's expression. He sighed and whispered, "Let's go. Master asked us to go, so let's go. If we don't go, we'll embarrass Master for no reason. Moreover, we still don't know why they're here." As for why they're here, Gong Mingwei did not say clearly, and no one asked. Xiao Hua followed the three people out of the tranquil cave. When he saw the three people's figures flying away, there was already a trace of estrangement. He could not help but sigh and went straight to the herb garden to pick some fruits. On the Dawn Rain continent, as long as one had some cultivation, they would not eat and would not eat the food of the mortal world. Therefore, Hua Ming, like the other sects, had planted some spirit fruits in the herb garden. When they were free, they would satisfy their cravings and entertain guests. Xiao Hua picked some fruits that were unique to Yellow Flower Ridge. Just as he was about to fly up, he saw the spirit herbs in the herb garden and thought, "I wonder how the spirit herbs in the space are doing? If it's not working, I'll take out the puppets first and leave them in the herb garden." As he thought, he looked into the space. This look was not important, but the strange scene in the space caused him to be stunned on the spot. What he saw was a square cube floating above the space, slowly rotating. Every time it rotated, a brilliant light would shoot out from the cube, illuminating the entire space. It was like the sun in the outside world. What's going on? Xiao Hua was so shocked that he asked himself more than 10 questions in a row. Previously, although the space was pitch black, it was in Xiao Hua's mind. He could sense everything in the space, and it had nothing to do with whether there was light or not. He also very naturally ignored the problem of light. After all, there was no light in the storage bag. But now that there was light, he could see everything in the space. The spirit herbs that were standing upright, the exquisite grass that had not yet sprouted, the messy piles outside the herb garden, and the puppet standing outside the herb garden. Xiao Hua had a very familiar feeling. Why is it no different from the herb garden in front of me? Xiao Hua did not seem to understand the difference between the two. Oh right, did something happen when I fainted at the foot of the Lone Staff Peak just now? Was it because this inexplicable cube appeared in my space that I fainted? It had to be said that Xiao Hua's guess was very close to reality, but who could he verify it with? It was already shocking that there was a storage space in the mind, and this space also had light. Even the little white snake could not casually say this, right? After being stunned for a moment, Xiao Hua did not have time to take out the puppet. He hurriedly flew up and rushed to the reception hall. The reception hall was a huge hall on the west side of the Mingli Peak. When Xiao Hua arrived, Gong Mingwei and the other two had already arrived. Shang Huaming and the 100 Herbs Gate were sitting on the host and guest seats, and seemed to be chatting happily. However, the expressions of the young disciples of the two sects were somewhat different. Jiang Fan, the young master of the 100 Herbs Gate, had a slightly flushed and excited face. From time to time, he stole glances at Xiao Xianrui, and then very carefully glanced sideways at the two elders who were talking. Jiang Yan of the 100 Herbs Gate had a curious look on her face. Her big eyes rolled around as she stared at Xiao Xianrui, carefully observing her. When she inadvertently glanced at Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao, a slight disdain appeared on her face. Under the bright eyes of the two people of the 100 Herbs Gate, Xiao Xianrui was both shy and slightly angry. She could only lower her head with a bashful face. Needless to say, Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao's faces were extremely ugly. They glared at Jiang Fan from time to time, but Jiang Fan's eyes were full of Xiao Xianrui, so how could he notice? Seeing Xiao Hua bring up the fruits, Xiao Yuehong smiled and said, "Sect leader Jiang, come. My Yellow Flower Ridge cannot be compared to your Medicine Farmer Peak, but we also have rare fruits. This is my Yellow Flower Ridge's specialty, please come and have a taste." With a wave of his hand, 3 fruits floated in the air and flew in front of the 3 people of the 100 Herbs Gate. Jiang Jiantong and Jiang Yan smiled and took the fruits, while Jiang Fan was startled. Then, he embarrassedly took one and put it in his mouth. After tasting the fruits, Jiang Jiantong smiled and said, "My son and daughter have never been to Yellow Flower Ridge. Please take them out and enjoy the beautiful scenery." Sect leader Xiao, what do you think? Haha, of course Mingwei, you 3 take young Master Jiang and Miss Jiang out and walk around. Yes, disciple obeys. Gong Mingwei stood up and bowed. Still glaring at Jiang Fan, he raised his hand and said, "Please." Xiao Hua was not Shang Huaming's official disciple, so of course he could not accompany them. He only stood behind Xiao Yuehong, waiting on the side. Seeing that all the disciples had left, Jiang Zhentong cupped his hands and said, "Sect leader Xiao, this time I came to visit Shang Huaming. I actually have two very important matters." "Haha, please speak, sect leader Jiang. This one is all ears." Xiao Yuehong naturally knew that he had important matters to discuss. The first matter is that the war between immortals and devils has just ended. Countless immortal seniors have fallen in the war. I'm afraid that the cultivation forces of the Dawn Rain continent will undergo a great change. My 100 Herbs Gate and Shang Huaming are both insignificant sects, so it's extremely easy for us to be implicated in this turbulent situation. This one is thinking that if the two sects can form an alliance and combine our strength, wouldn't it be better to resist the sudden change? Here, Jiang Zhentong glanced at Xiao Yuehong's expression and continued. This one knows that 100 Herbs Gate's cultivation method only allows one to cultivate to the late foundation establishment stage. It doesn't touch on how to condense a core or cultivate a golden core. This is my 100 Herbs Gate's shortcoming. However, my 100 Herbs Gate has many disciples, and many of them are outstanding. We have 2 foundation establishment disciples, and Fan has also reached the late Qi refinement stage. With the support of my 100 Herbs Gate's medicinal pills, rushing to the foundation establishment stage is not a delusion. Sect leader Jiang is right. Xiao Yuehong's expression didn't change as he nodded slightly. Every 1,000 years, the war between immortals and devils will cause great changes in the Dawn Rain continent. This time is no exception. If our two sects can work together, it'll be much better than fighting alone. Moreover, sect leader Jiang has clearly stated the strengths and weaknesses of our two sections. Shang Huaming, do indeed have a shortcoming of lacking outstanding disciples. Ha ha ha, sect leader Xiao. Does this mean that you agree? Jiang Zhentong exclaimed in surprise. Of course. How could this one not agree to something that benefits both sides? However, how our two sects will assist each other in the future still needs to be discussed in detail. Xiao Yuehong said with a smile. Good, Jiang Zhentong raised his hand, and Xiao Yuehong did the same. The two of them clapped their hands together as if they were making an oath. Haha, since sect leader Xiao has agreed to the alliance between our two sects, then this one second matter is easy to discuss. Please speak, sect leader Jiang. If the first matter is official, then the second matter is a private matter. Jiang Zhentong said with a smile. Oh no, this guy. He's going to talk about senior sister. Xiao Hua, who was standing by the side, immediately thought. Sect leader Xiao, what do you think this is? Unexpectedly, sect leader Jiang didn't mention Xiao Xianrui. Instead, he clapped his hands, took out 2 jade bottles from his storage pouch, and handed them over. What is this? Xiao Yuehong took them curiously, opened them and smelled them. His expression immediately changed as he exclaimed, This is a foundation establishment pill? Hee, that's right. These are the 2 foundation establishment pills that my 100 Herb sect has collected. Jiang Zhentong said with a smile. What does sect leader Jiang mean by this? Xiao Yuehong regained his composure and returned the 2 jade bottles to Jiang Zhentong. This is a foundation establishment pill? Why are you returning something that is already in your hands? Xiao Hua looked on anxiously from the side. It's nothing. Sect leader Xiao. Jiang Zhentong took the foundation establishment pills, but didn't put them back into his storage pouch. Instead, he placed them on the table next to him, glanced at Xiao Hua, and said with a smile to Xiao Yuehong, This is my 100 Herb sect's betrothal gift. Sect leader Xiao. Please consider marrying your beloved to my son. As expected, this guy has bad intentions, using the foundation establishment pills as bait. Xiao Hua, who was standing at the side, already understood Jiang Zhentong's intentions and cursed inwardly. Although he was already mentally prepared, Xiao Yuehong was still shocked by 100 Herb sect's generosity. He didn't know how to answer. These 2 foundation establishment pills were extremely precious items. Since they were betrothal gifts, they should be handled by Shang Huaming. Xiao Xianrui was going to marry into 100 Herb sect, So Xiao Yuehong naturally didn't need to use the Foundation Establishment pills. Once she entered 100 Herbs sect, she would be a member of 100 Herbs sect. Naturally, she would be given the Foundation Establishment pills. And these 2 Foundation Establishment pills should be given to Shang Huaming's Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qing Xiao. Xiao Yuehong was very clear about the aptitudes of these 2 people. With the help of the pills, the 2 of them wouldn't have any problems entering the Foundation Establishment realm. 100 Herbs sect took out 2 Foundation Establishment pills at once, solving the problem of Shang Huaming's orthodoxy and creating 2 Foundation Establishment cultivators for Shang Huaming. This, how could Xiao Yuehong easily refuse? Sect leader Xiao, there's no need to be so polite. Since our 2 sects are in an alliance, we're like brothers. If your sect's disciples have outstanding achievements, our 100 Herbs sect will also benefit. I'm also aware of the aptitudes of your 2 disciples. If they were in my 100 Herbs sect, with the support of our pills, they would have already entered the Foundation Establishment realm. I'm just fulfilling your wish. Seeing that Xiao Yuehong was still hesitating, Jiang Zhentong continued, ever since my son returned from E-City, he's been talking about your daughter. I think he has a very good impression of her. To tell you the truth, sect leader Xiao, in the past few days, I've also inquired about your daughter. I know that she's a good girl, as pure as ice and as pure as jade. That's why my son came to Shang Huaming to propose marriage. Moreover, based on my observation, your daughter seems to have a good impression of my son. This kind of mutual consent, as elders, how can we not accept it? How could Xiao Yuehong not know Xiao Xianrui's reaction and expression? However, he also knew the feelings of his 2 disciples towards his daughter. He was originally worried about how the 3 of them would deal with the most complicated matter in the world, but he didn't expect that 100 Herbs sect would come out of nowhere. Seeing that Xiao Yuehong's face was somewhat moved, Xiao Hua's throat almost stretched out a hand. Sect leader, please don't agree. Don't believe this guy. Perhaps Xiao Hua's prayer was effective, for Xiao Yuehong thought carefully for a moment, then his face became calm again. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your kindness, sect leader Jiang. It's easy to agree to this matter." Jiang Zhentong's face lit up. Just as he was about to get up, Xiao Yuehong hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Please wait for me to finish speaking, sect leader Jiang. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for it." Chapter 1234. Hee, I've been rude. Jiang Zhentong saw that Xiao Yuehong didn't directly refuse and knew that he had some confidence, so he couldn't help but smile. Sect Master Jiang also knows that I only have one daughter, little Rui. She has been spoiled since she was young, and she lost her mother when she was young. I feel guilty towards her. This marriage is a matter of life and death. If I didn't ask for her opinion, I wouldn't dare to easily agree to Sect Master Jiang's request. Your daughter's mother's matter. I've heard a little about it. Sect Master Xiao dotes on your daughter so much that I'm not worthy of it. My daughter has been beaten quite a bit under my hands. Hee. Hearing this, Xiao Yuehong nodded slightly. Since Sect Master Jiang knows my thoughts, then please, postpone the marriage proposal until I ask. Little Rui's thoughts. What do you think? Of course. I didn't think it would be so simple. Besides, I and the other elders are just thinking about our children. As for where they go, it's all their fate. This time, I brought Canine Girl with me because I wanted her to get to know your daughter. I wanted her to learn from your daughter's dignified manner, so that the young disciples of our 2 sects can interact with each other and have more opportunities for each other. Hearing this, not only did Xiao Yuehong's heart move, but Xiao Hua also understood. This guy knows about the matter between eldest senior brother and second senior brother. He's using his daughter as bait again. Xiao Hua didn't know what Xiao Yuehong was thinking, but looking at Xiao Yuehong's smiling face, he was afraid that it wasn't quite the same as what Xiao Hua was thinking. Sure enough, Xiao Yuehong clapped his hands and said, Sect Master Jiang is right. My 3 disciples haven't left the mountain for a long time and only know how to cultivate in seclusion. They have less contact with the outside world. In the future, the young people of our 2 sects will have to interact more. It will definitely be beneficial for them. Haha, very true, very true. Jiang Zhentong smiled and waved his hand, putting the Foundation establishment pills on the table into his storage bag. He said, "Sect Master Xiao, if you have any good news, please send a flying sword message. I'll definitely rush over as soon as possible. Present this betrothal gift." Well said, well said. Xiao Yuehong smiled and said, "Sovereign Jiang, please try the fruit again." "No, it's getting late. I should return to Medicine Farmer Peak." Jiang Jiantong shook his head. "Xiao Hua, go and call your senior brothers back. Don't tell them about this matter." "Yes, disciple understands." Xiao Hua's mouth was filled with bitterness as he bowed. After Xiao Hua left, Jiang Jiantong smiled and said, "This disciple of yours is also strange. If an ordinary person is unable to cultivate, then they wouldn't be able to enter the door at all. But he, on the other hand, can easily enter the door. Why can't he make any progress?" "Sigh, I don't know either. However, he is very strong and is quite polite. His behavior is very proper and his character is good. Therefore, I decided to keep him and see if there is a chance in the future. If you're still in the first layer of aura refining in another 8 to 10 years, I'll make an exception and take you in. In any case, I, Shang Huaming, am from a small sect. I have nothing to worry about." That's right, that's right. Sovereign Xiao is benevolent. If it were my 100 Herbs Gate, I'm afraid we would have been expelled from Medicine Farmer Peak long ago. Jiang Jiantong echoed. Xiao Hua left the guest hall and searched for a long time before he found the 5 people in a place with beautiful scenery. At this time, the 5 people were divided into 3 groups, each standing in front of an unknown flower tree. The setting sun in the west was shining on the fiery red flowers, reflecting the bright red color on Xiao Xianrui's body. Her white and tender face was pink. She was really a peach blossom beauty. Jiang Yan was standing next to Xiao Xianrui. She seemed to be very familiar with Xiao Xianrui. She whispered something to her and from time to time pointed to the flower tree and the sky. The two of them laughed like silver bells. Jiang Fan was holding a folding fan in his hand. He looked like a deity as he accompanied the two of them with a smile. Although he didn't say anything, his expressive eyes often met Xiao Xianrui's eyes. Poor Gong Mingwei and Zhang Qingxiao, standing on the other side of Xiao Xianrui, they looked a little dull. Compared to Jiang Fan, they were much less elegant. Moreover, the two of them looked very gloomy, which was incompatible with the beautiful scenery around them. Xiao Yuehong was still thinking that his 2 disciples could have some kind of relationship with Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan simply didn't give them a second glance. Well, perhaps her first glance was also a look of disdain. Seeing Xiao Hua flying over, Gong Mingwei's eyes lit up. He waved his hand and said, "Xiao Hua, is Master calling me back?" "Yes, reporting to eldest senior brother, yes." Xiao Hua, of course, gave Gong Mingwei an extremely respectful answer. "Sister Yan, in this case, let's go back first. My Shang Huaming has a lot of beautiful scenery, and we can't see all of them in a short time. Anyway, now that you and I know each other, there will be many opportunities in the future. Let's look around carefully?" "Yes, Sister Rui. My Yao Nong Peak also has a lot of beautiful scenery. Although it can't be compared with Yellow Flower Ridge, it can be interesting. In the future when I invite you, you can't refuse." "Hee, Sister Yan's invitation, how can I refuse?" Xiao Xianrui laughed. Hearing this, Jiang Yan was very satisfied and gave Jiang Fan a complacent look. Who knew that Jiang Fan only looked at Xiao Xianrui with a smile and didn't pay attention to her at all. "Let's go." Xiao Xianrui smiled, holding Jiang Yan's hand, jumped up, and went straight back to the reception hall. Gong Mingwei was very unwilling to accompany Jiang Fan behind, but his figure fell behind by a lot. Zhang Qingxiao grabbed Xiao Hua, looked at the 4 people's figures gradually disappearing, and whispered, "Little junior brother, how was it? What did Master say to old Jiang in the reception hall?" Xiao Hua calmly looked at Zhang Qingxiao, shook his head slightly and said, "The sect master ordered, I didn't dare to say anything." "You." Zhang Qingxiao knew that Xiao Hua would do what he said, so she could only stomp her feet and point at Xiao Hua's nose, saying, "You wronged me and eldest senior brother for doting on you." Xiao Hua felt wronged. "You can ask the sect master about this matter, why do you have to make things difficult for me?" "Of course Master will tell you, I just want to see if you are of the same mind as us. Xianxia said, and also flew back to the reception hall. Who knew? The matter was not what Xianxia thought, and it was also out of Xiao Hua's expectations. When the 3 people of 100 Herb Hall left, Xiao Yuehong just waved his sleeve and said, "The guests have left, you all go to the Tranquil Heart Cave to reflect." He didn't even say a word. Whether it was Gong Mingwei, Zhang Qingxiao, or Xiao Xianrui, they were all surprised, but what could they say? 2 drooped their heads, 1 rolled his eyes, and all returned to the lone staff peak. What about Xiao Hua? The 3 official disciples didn't ask. He knew the inside story, let alone say anything. This was because he had made a new discovery. While Xiao Hua was on his way back to Xihua Peak from the guest hall, he unconsciously looked towards the space. The various spirit grasses that were already half dead a few days ago were now all proud and arrogant. It was as if they had just been watered with spirit energy. I understand. In an instant, Xiao Hua, who was in mid-air, slapped his forehead. The spiritual herbs planted by Shang Huaming, of course, could be planted with puppets, but after planting, the matter of watering them with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was not something puppets could do. And Xiao Hua, after cultivating Shang Huaming's cultivation method and entering the first level of qi refining, was able to use the corresponding incantation to pour the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into the medicinal field. He began to use puppets to plant spiritual herbs in the space, but there was no way to use the incantation to send the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into the space behind his head to water the spiritual herbs. Of course, those spiritual herbs would be half dead. Don't tell me, the light of this cube is actually the spiritual energy of heaven and earth? Xiao Hua inconceivably stared at the cube that was still slowly rotating above the space. He didn't know what kind of material the cube was made of. Xiao Hua could perceive everything in the space, but he couldn't perceive this cube. It was as if this cube didn't exist there. But that rotation and that light reminded Xiao Hua that this thing really did exist. Moreover, it also turned Xiao Hua's delusion of planting spiritual herbs in the space of his mind into reality. Returning to Xihua Peak, Xiao Hua looked at the spiritual herbs in the medicinal field in high spirits, and then looked at the spiritual herbs in the space. He suddenly thought of something. The spiritual herbs in the medicinal field were watered with spiritual energy every day, and in the space, that strange cube was emitting light all the time. Didn't that mean that it was watering spiritual energy all the time? In an instant, Xiao Hua's spirit was greatly uplifted, but then he was suspicious again. This cube is shining all the time, then there will be a time when there is no light. At that time, won't I be unable to plant spiritual herbs? Can I not let it shine? Can I let it shine when I want it to? Unfortunately, this idea was nothing more than a fantasy. Xiao Hua couldn't perceive this cube at all, so how could he control it? Perhaps I can slowly search for it in the future? As long as it's in my space, there will always be a way. Xiao Hua said to himself with a smile. Then, Xiao Hua tidied up the medicinal field, sat cross-legged in his small room, and began to cultivate with Shang Huaming's secret cultivation method in his meridians. Just as Xiao Hua closed his eyes to cultivate, an inconceivable thing happened. Just as Xiao Hua closed his eyes to cultivate, in his mind, the slowly rotating cube suddenly stopped, and a magnificent brilliance flashed. The entire cube slowly trembled, expanding and contracting, like a beating heart. Along with the trembling of the cube, an extremely mysterious fluctuation gradually expanded outwards, enveloping the entire space, and then enveloping Xiao Hua's mind. Little by little, it enveloped Xiao Hua's entire body, as if his entire body had become that cube, faintly trembling along with the fluctuation. Then, beyond Yellow Flower Ridge, above the boundless horizon, a strange starlight suddenly appeared, covering Xiao Hua's entire body. That starlight was different from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It couldn't be seen with the naked eye, and it couldn't be detected by divine sense. On the surface, Xiao Hua looked the same as usual, only sitting cross-legged with his palms facing the sky, but his entire body had been tightly wrapped by the starlight, turning into a cocoon. Chapter 1235. Inside the cocoon of light, Xiao Hua's body was shrouded in strange starlight. That starlight seeped into his skin, into his meridians, bones and flesh. Gradually, it changed everything in his body. this was still not the most important thing. In the space of Xiaohua's mind, even more and denser strange starlight was projected into the space along with the fluctuations of the glowing cube. Not only did it tightly wrap around the cube, but the entire space was also filled with starlight. Although the cube was still emitting rays of light, at the same time, it was like a black hole, absorbing all the strange starlight in its surroundings without leaving a trace behind. However, that strange starlight seemed to have transcended space, transcended time. It was boundless and unceasing as it was projected over. The cube was simply unable to absorb all of it. Just at this moment, Xiaohua suddenly opened his eyes. He looked all around in a daze and said to himself, "It seems, it's a bit too quiet. It's different from usual." Just as Xiaohua opened his eyes, the cube rotated again. All the projected starlight also stopped abruptly, as if nothing had happened at all. When Xiaohua excitedly looked at the thriving spiritual plants in the space and closed his eyes to cultivate again, the cube stopped again. The fluctuations appeared again and the strange starlight was projected over again. The next morning, without waiting for Xiaohua to open his eyes, he was already impatiently checking the space in his mind. He had already made sufficient preparations, but he was still shocked by the growth of the spiritual plants in the space. He foolishly couldn't say a word. After a long while, Xiaohua slapped his thigh with all his strength. Then, the corners of his mouth opened. It was unknown whether it was from pain or joy. Immediately after, Xiaohua flipped over and stood up. He laughed for a long time and his entire body soared into the air. He somersaulted 3 or 4 times in the air before landing on the ground. "Ha ha ha, I'm rich, I'm rich." Xiaohua laughed somewhat foolishly. In just one night these spiritual plants actually grew as if they had grown for a year. In total, I've only grown spiritual plants for 3 years on this Xihua peak. If I calculate like this, the day after tomorrow, the spiritual plants in my space will grow even more than the spiritual plants in my medicine field. When Xiaohua thought of this, he suddenly seemed to have realized something. His entire body became motionless, and he stood there in a daze. After the time it took to drink half a cup of tea, he muttered, "My God, it seems it's not that simple. Didn't the sect leader say it a few days ago? What linglong grass? Doesn't it need 300 years to be used? What 100 herbs gate? They actually dare to have ideas about senior sister. Wait until I grow the linglong grass and give it to the sect leader. Our Shang Huaming will also be able to refine foundation building pills. I'll refine dozens of pills. My 2 senior brothers and senior sister will each have 10 pills and eat them like fruits every day. The sect leader definitely won't have to worry about them building their foundation, and he definitely won't marry senior sister off. And I just don't know. Will it be better for eldest senior brother and senior sister to be together? Or will it be better for second senior brother and senior sister to be together? Am I thinking too much? Who senior sister will be together with, even? The sect leader probably doesn't know. Why should I think about this?" Xiaohua laughed mischievously, as if he could see Shang Huaming's beautiful future. "It's still early for the linglong grass to mature. Let's wait until this time next year. Then we'll talk about it. Right now, the most important thing is that absorption fruit." I've been in Shang Huaming for 3 years, and I've only eaten 1 peiyuan pill. The sect leader hesitated for a long time, and only took it out because he wanted me to break through to the second layer of qi refining. Presumably, senior brother and senior sister also didn't take too much. If we wait until they come out of the tranquil heart cave and see so many peiyuan pill, wouldn't they go crazy with joy? Xiaohua thought happily, but then he frowned. That's right, why haven't the seeds of the linglong grass sprouted yet? They can be considered to have grown for a year, right? Could it be that it's really like what the sect leader said, that the linglong grass can't be grown from seeds? Forget it, since there's nothing to do, I'd better go and ask. The linglong grass that grows in the space for a day is equivalent to a year in the outside world. It can't be delayed. As Xiaohua thought, he directly flew to Minci Peak. Xiao Yuehong, who was gathering vitality and absorbing qi at the peak of Minci Peak, heard Xiaohua's question and said with a smile, "You silly child, a few days ago, I was just angry and casually scolded your eldest senior brother. You've also stayed in the medicinal garden for 3 years.
What kind of spiritual herbs aren't grown from seeds? And, even if some spiritual herbs were transplanted from other places, in the end, they're still grown from seeds. Then the seeds of the ling-long grass that eldest senior brother bought. Don't they also have a purpose? Why did you deny it? Xiaohua asked curiously. Your eldest senior brother only wanted to use the seeds of the ling-long grass to make up for their mistakes. Master let them go to the tranquil heart cave to reflect on their mistakes and let them focus on their cultivation. How could I let them come out so easily? Of course I had to say that. Moreover, Master's words aren't without reason. Why? The reason is very simple. Because the seeds of the ling-long grass, from the moment they are planted, they need to be watered with heaven and earth spiritual energy once a day. They need to be watered for 100 years before they can grow. During these 100 years, they must not be watered with heaven and earth spiritual energy. Otherwise, they definitely won't be able to germinate. Ah? So difficult. Xiao Hua was flabbergasted. Isn't that so? Isn't the foundation establishment pill very precious in our cultivation world? Xiao Yuehong smiled and said, however, after the ling-long grass germinates and grows out, it'll be easy to handle. You don't need to water it with heaven and earth spiritual energy every day. You just need to take care of it like a normal spiritual herb. After another 200 years of care, it can be refined into a foundation establishment pill. Oh, Sect Master, I understand. So you're saying that after it germinates, the ling-long grass can also be transplanted. If others want to plant it, they can directly use the seedlings of the ling-long grass. There's no need to painstakingly take care of the seeds of the ling-long grass for 100 years. Xiao Yuehong clapped his hands and smiled. That's right. So in the Dawn Rain continent, other than those like the 100 Herbs sect who specialize in cultivating spiritual herbs, everyone else transplants the ling-long grass. So, Master said, the ling-long grass isn't grown from seeds. It's also very reasonable. Disciple understands. Xiao Hua bowed and said, why are you suddenly asking about this? Xiao Yuehong smiled thoughtfully and said, could it be that your second senior brother still hasn't given up on his evil intentions? Does he still want to grow out sooner? No. Xiao Hua repeatedly waved his hand and anxiously spat out. Disciple saw that senior brother and sister were punished. Disciple thought that the seeds of the ling-long grass were also due to their contribution. Disciple wanted to ask about it carefully and discuss it with Sect Master. Xiao Hua, I also know what you're thinking. I'm very gratified that you have such a good relationship with your senior brother and sister. However, you should know, cultivation is hard work. I, Shang Huaming, only have you 4 disciples, so I don't supervise much. If I can take this opportunity to teach them a little lesson and let their cultivation progress, my painstaking efforts won't be in vain. Disciple understands. I reckon senior brother and sister also understand. Sect Master Emoshinyo. Xiao Hua smiled and said, AI, it's impossible not to worry. Didn't you see? Xiao Yuehong thought for a moment and then hesitated. He waved his hand and said, you also do your best to cultivate. The sooner you step into the 3rd layer of qi refining, the sooner Master can accept you as Shang Huaming's disciple. Xiao Hua's face revealed a bitter smile, but then he thought of something and became confident again. He smiled and said, I know, Sect Master, I will definitely work hard. Xiao Yuehong didn't know why Xiao Hua suddenly had confidence, but he was also very gratified. He patted his shoulder and said, then, why don't you hurry up and cultivate? Yes, Sect Master. Xiao Hua bowed and turned to leave. He then asked, that's right, Sect Master, let me ask you, in our Yellow Flower Ridge, did you find the 300-year-old ling-long grass? Xiao Yuehong was surprised and asked curiously, why are you asking this? Strange. Xiao Hua, what's wrong with you today? Why do you keep talking about ling-long grass? When Xiao Hua heard this, his expression unconsciously stiffened and he secretly complained in his heart. The more you talk, the more mistakes you will make. If I had known earlier, I would have asked tomorrow. However, before Xiao Hua could think of a countermeasure, Xiao Yuehong explained for him. Okay, you don't have to worry about yesterday's matter. Your head is full of foundation building pills and ling-long grass for no reason.
In fact, what your senior martial brother and senior martial sister lack the most right now is the Peiyuan pill. They have to raise their cultivation to the peak stage of the aura refining realm first, then they can consider the matter of building their foundation. Okay, for the next few days, you should guard Cherishing Flower Peak properly. If you have nothing to do, you can also go to other places to take a look. I'll go to the depths of Yellow Flower Ridge to search. Maybe I'll really be able to find some old absorbing fruits. It seemed that Xiao Yuehong also had a similar plan. Seeing that Xiao Yuehong also wanted to go to the depths of Yellow Flower Ridge to search for linglong grass, Xiao Hua was delighted. He cupped his hands and said, "Disciple congratulates Sect Master for achieving victory and immediate success." "Pft," Xiao Yuehong laughed out loud. "I'm not going to look for people to fight. Where did this achieving victory come from?" However, he immediately frowned and muttered, "Your words have reminded Master. I don't know if the place where I found linglong grass still has it. If that thing is still there, Master will really have to think of another way." Xiao Hua didn't know what Xiao Yuehong was talking about, but he also didn't care. He only carefully probed, "Say, if Disciple looks around our Min Chi Peak, will I be able to find good spiritual herbs?" "Around Min Chi Peak?" Xiao Yuehong shook his head. "I'm afraid not. Our Shang Huaming's disciples have already searched the surroundings of Min Chi Peak who knows how many times. How could there be any old spiritual herbs?" Disciple understands. Disciple just wants to look around again." Xiao Hua smiled apologetically. "If you have nothing to do, then go look around. Maybe you'll have good luck?" Xiao Yuehong obviously didn't believe it. You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.